This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
The majors can't seem to have a straightforward race. In a bizarre turn of events, many of our top runners in the championship either aren't able to race today or have missed the top split. This opens the door for all those who've been looking for a chance to make inroads on the fastest shoes out there. But American stock car racing is a fickle beast and could remove any of them in the blink of an eye. We'll see what this unusual scenario produces in the championship as we get ready to watch the Majors Michigan 400. And you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel and the iRacing Esports Network. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth tonight is Bill Soup Zahn. Next to him is our very own NASCAR Peak Antifreeze driver, Christian Challoner. Behind the scenes is the director, Dr. Amjad Yaman, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Christian, this place is starting to become familiar to you and I, having called a few cup races here already. But in case our audience is new to this circuit, why don't you fill them in?
Yeah, Joe, we've done quite a few races here recently, but this is a 2-mile oval, so one of the faster tracks. It's got 18 degrees of banking in both corners, and we're doing 200 laps here tonight, so it's a really long race. I think we'll see a lot of pack racing, especially as the temperature kind of cools down towards the end, but we'll get you over to the lap guide now and show you what it's like to do a couple of laps around this place.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Global Sim Racing channel. I'm Brian Yazek, taking you for a spin around the Michigan International Speedway, the GSRC Chevrolet SS Cup car. Michigan is a very, very fun track for drivers, fans alike. My home track, so I might have a little bit of an allegiance there. Across the start-finish line, getting your hot lap started, up here by the wall, letting it wind up, kind of like how you qualify at a plate track. Off into turn one, you're going to use the brakes just a little bit to let it sit. Back into gas about halfway, 3/4, back on full throttle. Don't hit that seam down there. Across, a little squirrely out of the corner, aiming for that crossover gate. Got to really maximize the way that this car runs off the corners. Off into turn three, right about where the start-finish line, or not the start-finish line, where the safer barrier starts, right there in turn three. Let it go into the throttle, float it way out here, and then you're going to see guys throughout the race and for their hot lap bring it right down here onto the track's apron. Really kind of let you get a good run, head of steam heading off into turn one again, off into the corner, using that safer barrier as your braking mark. You're not using a whole ton of brake. You're really just using enough to let the nose set on the car. So that way you get a good bite through the middle and be able to get a good run off, because that's where you're going to be able to make up a whole lot of time here. Down into turn three for the final time today, letting it float to the bottom here, and this is just going to get exponentially harder as the tires and the track wear out. Out of turn four, letting it float up there, back down here to the apron, and across the line. And that is going to complete our track guide around the Michigan International Speedway in the GSRC Chevrolet SS. My name is Brian Yazek. Enjoy the show.
You see a couple laps around Michigan in the Cup car. It's going to be some fascinating racing with the new Aero package, creating a lot of pack racing. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Before we do, let's talk about the race itself and what you're about to watch, because, well, every race is different here in the majors. We are in round 11 out of 14, and they race on both road and oval in multiple different cars. You can see they get a drop week for each of them in this series. The Gen 6 Cup cars have the Chevy, the Ford, and the Toyota, which you can choose from. And they have open setups, which could make a huge difference depending on what sort of green flag runs we get around here on these 200 laps. The drivers have one spare car in case they have a big wreck that they unfortunately have to take some repairs for and can't manage to get the car back out in time. They can just pop a new one out of the trailer and hop right back out on track, but only one. So if you get into more than one of those big wrecks, well, you are put at a severe disadvantage. Speaking of disadvantages, we talked about in the opening, Christian, the big names that have not shown up today has made this, basically a prime race to get a new winner in this series.
I mean, yeah, we've got both Liam Quinn and Eric Smith aren't racing tonight at all. They didn't qualify. They've had to kind of take a week off. And I think the biggest story we've got really is that Blake Reynolds blew up on his one and only qualifying attempt. So he didn't actually make the pro split. He's running in the Sportsman tonight. And as we know with this league, the way that the point system works is that it kind of it moves down the list going between the two splits. So the fastest guy in the Sportsman League can't outscore anybody in the Pro League, so to speak. And that's really going to hurt him in terms of championship points, because pretty much everybody he's going up against who is racing did make the Pro split. So they've got a really good opportunity to kind of pull some more points on him. I mean, we know he's pretty much a contender every time in this league, so that's a really big opportunity for those guys. But kind of as we saw in Europe earlier, you can look like you're going to have a really good points day, and then things can completely change even on the last lap.
Certainly could, which sort of bodes well for the likes of Matthew Thunhorst, who now leads our points, by the way. We'll get to those in a little bit. But Matthew qualified at the dead tail end of the field, 32nd. And he has a lot of cars to pass, but it is a long race. And if they do have that chaos, that could give him a chance to extend that points lead. Really, the driver probably sitting best that we're looking at is Travis Worling, who is third in the points. And he qualified, let's see, double check my notes, 10th today. Not bad considering how competitive it is out here. As we watch them continue in the warm-up. We talk about the chaos too, and I mentioned the new aero packages on these cars. We saw a hint of what's to come in the Australian and the Euro splits as well, Christian, and it sounds like this is going to be sort of a Talladega on steroids.
Yeah, this is a really interesting track, especially in terms of how it now races with this new aero package. It really is very, very draft locked. And the other thing with that draft lock is that it's kind of a bit of a crossover track in terms of sort of setup ethos. A lot of the other mile-and-a-half tracks that we've seen in, say, other leagues, the ethos really is to go for a very high downforce setup, and everybody kind of has trended towards that now. Whereas here, you can really run quite a trimmed-out car, and if you bank on short runs, say, maybe up to about 10 laps, you can still be relatively competitive. You will fall off after that, especially if you're not leading a line, but it does make, say, end of race restarts quite wild. So you got to kind of watch out for if you start getting a lot of yellows, that those low downforce cars that might have been shoveled back towards the back of the pack early on, they might then kind of come back to the fore, especially if we get a lot of consecutive yellows.
Let's hope we don't have too many consecutive yellows and we get some good green flag racing around here, especially for drivers like Ryan Toma, who returns after a long break. Unfortunately, work kept him from racing here. He's been a big part of this league for a long time. And not only him, but recently in the past few races, we've gotten Jason Fleischle back, who's looking really good in the warm-up. He currently sits in what looks about 10th in the warm-up time. So we'll see what the 77 former champion Alliance racer can do in this series. You can see cars out there right now practicing with that pack racing. Since this is a series that brings in all different types of drivers from different disciplines and forces you to try those other disciplines, what do you think that means for the pack racing? Do you think that drivers will be able to adapt to that pretty quickly and easily, or is that a tough nut to crack if you're not used to stock cars on ovals?
I think that, say, the guys who race a lot of IndyCar and the guys who've kind of really enjoyed this package this year, they'll be okay. That said, you do have to keep in mind that you are racing people who don't race this a lot, and that the aero push can really catch you out, especially in 1 and 2. 3 and 4 didn't seem so bad in Europe earlier, but in 1 and 2, if a guy kind of sweeps across the front of your car, and you sort of cross his line and his wash, then you get a tremendous amount of aero push, and it wouldn't surprise me at all to see a lot of guys catching the wall off of 2. And I think, given those sort of considerations, you just have to keep in mind that if you are a regular in this car, that perhaps the guys that you're racing around aren't. So where you might run them really tight in, say, a NASCAR iRacing series race, you might have to give them, say, 50 to double the percentage room, as it were. So maybe where instead of pinching him down in a 1, you give him an extra lane and so on. So you kind of just have to sort of be aware that you're racing against people who don't always drive this and make allowances for that.
Interesting that you mentioned the washout. Some of the drivers I heard in the warm-up were comparing it to the Indy cars. And someone said the comment that this aero package is sort of like an Indy car and a NASCAR stock car had a baby, and this is the result. So we'll see how this whole thing plays out. I am seeing a few drivers practicing their pit in. Now, you've had a chance to run this race, obviously, down in the Euro Split, and many of these teams have drivers who run in various splits. So you've got an idea of kind of the different philosophies that some of the setups these teams have been going for. Have you noticed a trend in any of them, or does it look like everybody's kind of doing their own thing?
The one group of guys I didn't really race against at all was anybody from riding shotgun, so I'm not really sure what they have. I did see a couple of Steve Driscoll and Travis Warling's teammates in Europe earlier, and their car looked pretty good. It looked like they'd gone for a similar philosophy to myself, where they kind of got a bit of a long run car that had a bit more downforce on it, and it was kind of a better pack racing car. But those cars that kind of handle better towards the end of a run, they are severely disadvantaged at the start of a run because they're lacking straight line speed. And I know there's a couple of other cars out there, say, actually the pole sitter, John Medeiros. I know he's set up in kind of a high downforce config, so I have a rough idea of who's going to kind of have a bit of an edge. And if I had to pick one guy to really make something happen today, I think I'd pick probably Travis Warling.
We'll keep an eye on him. Well, one thing that we are watching, you're watching right now, is the iRacing Esports Network. Make sure and subscribe to the channel when you get the opportunity. All you got to do is either scroll down below this video or go to their YouTube page. If you haven't subscribed yet, you'll see the subscribe button is giant in red, so you can't miss it. Click that, and you won't miss a moment of the majors with all their exciting action all year round. We've got just a few more seconds to go before we get to the grid. Drivers just completing the last bits of their warm-up. There's a relatively large field out here today. Question is, how many are going to be able to survive 400 miles and get to the checkered flag at the end? Usually in one of these Cup car races, we take Charlotte for the World 600, and that, of course, takes a little bit more time. This one should go a little bit quicker, we hope. So our starting grid for today. Jonathan Medeiros will be on the pole with Daniel Johnson starting in second. Bob Beltrami will be P3. Then it's Josh Mertz on the outside of row 2 in fourth. Andrew Oakey in fifth position, and Marcus Tracy in P6. Daniel Knight will be starting seventh. Travis Warling gets in eighth position on the grid, and Brian McGreevy in ninth. Josh Kanata will be rounding out the top 10.
Then we've got Jason Fleischle. We spoke about him a little bit earlier. He's starting 11th. Pretty good starting spot there. He's got a good spot on pit road. We've got Ray Partridge lining up alongside him in 12th. Then we got Jeff Schmeier and Rob Goll on 13th and 14th. Ryan Thomas returning to the series, starting in 15th. So kind of mid-pack for him. And Adam Young alongside him in 16th. Then we got Kyle Murphy and Lionel Callisto. Championship contender, 17th and 18th right there. And then Rob Powers, Taft Baldwin, 19th and 20th.
21st goes to Steve Driscoll with Steve Salstad in 22nd. Wayne Hutchison will begin 23rd. Lynn Kinchlow kicks things off in 24th at the drop of the green. Jimbo Pfeiffer will be behind him in 25th. On his outside will be Ernie Ludwig. Then you've got Wade Hayes in P27, followed by Brian Bennett in the 28th position. Josh Cully starts 29th. Matthew Thunhorst will actually start 30th, it looks like. William Fletcher 31st. Matt Gelder 32nd. Ryan Steele 33rd. And Ross Banfield 34th as the cars start to kick off and get on their way. We'll have one lone pace lap around here. Let's take a look at the weather, though. You were talking a little bit about this, Christian, that it is very hot out on the track today.
Yeah, and I think that kind of we'll see it sort of tail off and get a little bit cooler towards the end of the race. That's definitely what happened in the European race. You can see it's 120 right now, so that's pretty hot, and I think that's gonna be kind of a big factor in the aero push. And that kind of sounds a little bit strange, but realistically, when the track temp gets down to about 100 or under, the effects of the aero push kind of really go away, or they get sort of shifted towards the end of a run. So right now, we'll probably see people struggling with the push, maybe about 10 to 15 laps in, and then later in the race, we'll probably see it happening closer to, say, 20 to 25 laps.
Medeiros on the pole, and his number 84 follows this Mustang pace car. 400 miles, 200 laps that will be running here today at this 2-mile oval. The pace car getting ready now to peel into pit lane. What are we going to see on these first few laps? Will this set the tone for the race? We'll find out soon enough, because as the pace car heads in, Medeiros has control. Green flag is out. He waited a long time for that one, and he gets a horrible start. Already a jump on the outside for Daniel Johnson. Starting to pull away on the high side. Beltrami down in third. A little bit stuck behind the number 84. They swing into turn one as the momentum starts to gain, but a very orderly start as almost everybody stays too wide.
Yeah, it's pretty nice, actually, about as nice a start as we can get, but it does look like people are sort of moving around a little bit more now. That might have kind of been my bad on that restart from Medeiros there. I told him that you probably don't want to go right off the bat because you'll jump way out front and then they'll catch you on the backstretch. So I think he waited a bit longer than I intended him to, but hey, he'll learn. He's got a long time.
It all worked out because he's still in the lead. Beltrami now pushing him up at the front as he gets into second. Daniel Johnson drops back but runs the high side in third, ducking down low. That's Josh Mertz that you see in the brown and black machine, seeing if he could get himself into fourth. But look, second place up for grabs. 4.74 of Daniel Johnson gets a run out of two.
Yeah, it also looks like Andrew Oakey's got a really fast short run car. He's kind of trying to make a bit of a line work right now. Something I've noticed is you got a lot of guys running all the way down to the yellow line in 1 and 2. That's only really viable for, say, about 3 to 5 laps. And anybody who gets trapped right down there, say in a 3-wide scenario later in a run, they're going to have to really back out, and they're going to lose a lot of momentum coming down to the backstretch.
Rookie, one of the drivers that there's been talk about him potentially getting a first win here today, as well as Bob Beltrami, who qualified incredibly well. The 14 still battling side by side with the 474. As we ride on board with Oakey, you can see speeds of nearly 200 miles an hour when they get to the end of the backstretch here. Everybody having to check up just a little bit, trying to stay in the pack. So far, so good as we get ready to complete lap 3.
Yeah, it looked like Beltrami lost a little bit of momentum in 3 and 4 there, so it kind of suggests to me that he's also got a bit of a short run car. He pulls it all back on the straightaway, but then you can kind of see his handling isn't maybe as good as, say, the front two right now, although they do have a significant advantage being the line leaders.
Up at the top, Daniel Johnson gets a run, and that's going to push him up to the lead. First lead change of the day. Marcus Tracy follows through in the number 83, working that high side down low. Jonathan Medeiros still trying to ride that yellow line all the way around 3 and 4. Not a whole lot of crazy moves thus far.
I'm quite impressed at how kind of rational everybody's being right now. I don't expect it to stay this way, but it's good to see that everybody's kind of giving each other a bit of room, and there's sort of not really a desire to maybe force a move like there might be later in the race. There's a lot of checking up happening if people kind of get shuffled a bit out of line. So that's good to see, and hopefully it'll keep it green for a long time.
Boy, that high side is moving down the backstretch. The 83 of Tracy back up to second once again. Shorter distance around the bottom, so Medeiros in the 84 gets it back. How's this going to look off the corner, though? They want to get up to the high side. He doesn't have the speed. He stays down low. Continues to throw his hat in with Josh Mertz behind him in the 265.
Yeah, you can kind of see that the bottom line's sort of falling away a little bit. You've got less cars in it, and it's more fragmented now. They do seem to have a bit of an advantage as we see John Medeiros go way high. I think he grabbed the wall there. Everybody's got around him, but hopefully that's not hurt him too much.
Great trained. Oki now goes by on the bottom. Beltrami sort of gets plugged up, but thankfully doesn't hit anything. The 68 of McGreevy down low as he started this race in 9th. He's now going to be in 7th. A little bit of a gain from all that squabbling going on.
Yeah, I was actually just about to mention that it looks like we've got guys kind of trying to get out of the bottom lane and running the top, and the top is a very good defensive line, especially in the 1 and 2 end of the track, because like I was saying, it's very hard to hold the bottom down there, and especially with the track temperature being really hot, you can kind of really see the effects of that already. 3 and 4 is a little bit more equal, but the top line is definitely the defensive line and where you want to be, especially if you're the leader.
You want someone on a climb, look at the number 5 of Taft Baldwin. He's up to 11th. He qualified in 20th. He's in a big pack of cars, though. Oh, and just nearly gets into the 90, I believe that was.
Yeah, it looked like the 90 was a little bit slow onto the front stretch there, and he wasn't for waiting.
They're going to go mostly single file there, as once again he nearly gets into the 90. But they could be settling down at this point. In fact, they're starting to get single file mostly up at the top. Daniel Johnson up on the high side was going to be followed by Knight, but Knight ducks down low through 3 and 4. McGreevy going to follow him. No change up there. Meanwhile, Soup, who got stuck in a little bit of traffic, has finally rushed his way up the stairs into the booth. Welcome to us, Soup.
I forgot my press box pass, and the security guard took me down, showed me the back room, but we got it all straightened out, so good to be here.
All right, so you can see, Bill, that we've had a pretty good start to this race. We've had no caution flags yet. We're getting ready to complete lap 9 and start 10. Really, the biggest story has been Jonathan Medeiros, our pole sitter, falling backwards after brushing the wall. He's currently hovering around 6th and 7th and seems to have gotten things under control.
I also like the movement from the drivers in it'd be Partridge sitting down there in 10th position right now. He's been looking real good. I also like what Jason Fleischle is doing, up in 7th.
Fleischle having moved up from 11th on the grid. If you're wondering where Thunhorst, our points leader, is, he's been steadily chipping away, essentially. He's currently 20th. Number 98 is just taking him off one at a time. And I've only been able to glance back briefly, but you can see that he is just basically kind of biding his time, using the length of the race to his advantage. And we'll see where everything shakes out.
Move up front. Christian, I did a little calculations before the race. Now, I haven't raced in the car. I figured about 42 laps on fuel. What's your take?
That's a little bit longer than I think we can manage. In Europe earlier, I was making just under 38 laps. It really does kind of depend on where you are in the pack, though. Especially if you're the leader or any kind of line leader that's kind of in a broken up sort of pack, then you burn a lot more fuel, and it's a lot harder to kind of make the fuel mileage you need. I reckon roughly about 38 laps in terms of a fuel mileage scenario.
I'm glad you're picking up the U.S. lingo there. Did you have a green stop pit stop in the Europe race?
We didn't. We got very, very close though. I had a yellow come out on the lap that I was going to pit, which was quite interesting because I didn't really have a lot of fuel in the car, and I had a clutch and pretty much roll into my pit box. So that was fun.
Jonathan Medeiros, by the way, has had another issue somewhere along the line. I think maybe he got loose out of 2 at some point. I tried to find it, but wasn't totally sure. But he's down to 14th now. That's nearly halfway down the pack after starting on the pole. I don't think he has a long run set on this car.
Yeah, he kind of looks like he's struggling a bit. I saw that everybody sort of migrated to the top, and it looked like he was still trying to make the very, very bottom of the track work, and I think it's just not really worked out for him. I know that Daniel Johnson is on the same setup as him, and he's doing quite well right now, but somebody I'd like to highlight is Lynn Kinchlow. He was very fast in practice when I ran with him last night, and he's up a ton of spots right now. He started 24th, and I believe he's coming across the line in 10th, so he's really on the move.
Wow, great stuff from Kinchlow. Yeah, I'm looking at Medeiros and Thunhorst, and they are almost on complete mirror reverse trajectories from one another. Got a little 3 wide in the middle of the pack, though, so things getting antsy. Taft Baldwin moving by Jason Fleischle. Remember, Taft, another one trying to come forward from very far back in the pack in qualifying. Marcus Tracy up to the high side into 83 in 5th position. It was single file for a little while, and now it's erupting into a 2-lane race once more. Tracy going to get the shot down into turn 1. Baldwin falling away. Fleischle trying to follow him through. Beltrami, another one that's not faring so well in terms of position, but it's still at least holding on. Remember, he started in 3rd. He's fallen down to 8th. Side by side between Baldwin and Tracy now for P5, but that high line is the desirable one, so I think the 83 is going to come out on top.
Yeah, it kind of looks like Tracy's got a maybe kind of a hybrid between a short and a longer run setup, and it looks like he's really only able to run the top right now, and he's kind of backed up a little bit of a line here. We can see the top 4 have kind of broken away. It'll be interesting to see if Taft can run down the top 4.
It shows what I know. Taft was the one that came out on top between those 2 through 3 and 4. That gives him 5th place. He's got a gap up to the next few. Top 4 are starting to pull away. That's Johnson in the lead, Knight in the number 94 in 2nd place, McGreevy holds down 3rd, and Mertz in 4th place.
You see Tracy's gone all the way to the top there in 3 and 4. He looks like he's... And this is actually how you can kind of tell whether people have got a long or a short run car. If you see that kind of wiggle as they come off of 4, then you can kind of tell that they're in a low downforce config, as it were, because that's pretty much a trait of those cars. They'll be really fast down the straight, and then what'll happen to them is they'll really start to lose rear grip, and it's very obvious coming off of 4 at this track.
Another driver kind of moving backwards is Andrew Oakey. Started in 5th, and he's now in 27th. The number 96 continually losing positions. He's nearly at the back of the field already.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened to him. I saw he was kind of fighting to get into the top line. We've got a couple of guys getting really loose off of 4 now. I won't be surprised if we get a yellow maybe in the next 5 laps.
Battle for the lead up at the top. Johnson being challenged by Knight, who works the low side in the number 94. He got a good shot coming off of 3 and 4. He's going to use the grip at the bottom that still seems to be there for him. And off the corner, it looks like he's ahead, but this 474 uses a little bit of momentum, then lifts and decides it's better to give and take for this time. So he'll stay in 2nd place behind them. The 68 caught up with that little bit of a battle. Same thing with Mertz in the 265. They got to watch out because Baldwin is coming as Mertz now looks to the low side.
Yeah, this is another thing actually that can happen, is that if you work together with maybe 1 to 2 other cars, you can really sort of form a breakaway or push each other along. But you can also do the opposite, where if you start fighting, you'll bring everybody behind you into play.
Incredibly, we still have had no cautions yet. Nearly 20 laps in. We're almost 10% through this race. I wonder if our first pit stops are going to be... Okay, our first pit stops are going to be green flag stops. It is now definitely a 5-car fight up at the top because Taft is certainly at the back of the 265 of Josh Mertz.
Right as you were saying about the going green, Ray Partridge had quite a moment off of 2. He was able to keep it together, but it kind of goes to show that the more we get into this run, I know guys in practice were talking about it, saying that they were all kind of struggling when they get about 20 laps into a run, and it's really only going to get worse, if I'm honest.
Oof. Big move down to the inside for Adam Young. The retro schemes on the ride-in shotgun cars not really showing much wood this time. You can see Ray Partridge and the Dog Bear still trying to get himself together, having also lost out to Jeff Schmeier. That run on the low line for Young not paying off. He loses not only the spot to Schmeier, there goes the Dog Bear car up on the high side as well. And is he also going to get caught by Cully? Not quite.
And that kind of brings back another interesting point about passing, where if you're going to make a pass on somebody, especially if you're going to try and use the bottom line, then you have to get it done. Like, you can't afford to sit there running side by side with them and fighting with them. If you're gonna maintain your momentum, you really have to run up on them, kind of pull a quite aggressive move and clear them, and then get gone. If you start kind of lifting and hesitating and kind of being nice, then you lose all of your speed advantage you had over them, and then it becomes a real grind to get past them.
Top 5 are certainly playing nice, but not 6th place. Fleischley's running the high side with a challenge from Travis Warling. Warling in his number 90 doesn't have quite as much momentum down the backstretch. They're being joined by Lynn Kinchlow in his continued progress forward from 24th now to 8th position as they continue to fight back and forth over this spot. It looks like Warling is going to drift up, be able to take it, but the battle is not done for Jason Fleischley. The 44's got the run. He's got the low side, but can he make it stick?
Interesting when
really deep.
When you talk about Warling, and when you look at the points, he's really one of. There's only 2 drivers on the top 5 that are here today. It's Warling and Matthew Thunhurst. I don't know if we talked about Reynolds' issue. He sits in 6th, but Quinn's not here today, and the other 2 drivers are also not here. Eric Smith not here, and Trevor Clement not here. So good opportunity for these guys like Warling to score some big points.
Wow. Taft Baldwin is already up to 3rd. I thought maybe, Christian, that he would be content to just ride at the back of the front pack now that he's caught them, but it looks like his eyes are on a bigger prize here.
Yeah, I mean, it really kind of depends on what you want to do, because, yeah, he was kind of in that group of 5, but you can also see that Kinchlow is coming, and it's always safer to be... I mean, I say this, it didn't work out this way for me earlier in Europe, but it's always safer to be at the front, and that can kind of be sort of a bit of your game plan, and if you got the car to do it, then yeah, why not? Go out there and lead some laps and kind of get it done, you know?
While I was in the holding cell of security, did we have a chance to talk about the European finish today?
It was mentioned briefly.
Okay.
A little bit of a look to the inside from Baldwin on Johnson, but he doesn't get the pass done. Definitely interested in getting up into 2nd already. He stays tucked right under the rear spoiler of the 474 down the backstretch. Behind them, don't count out Brian McGreevy, rather, who's now made it a 6-car fight, about to become 7, because here comes Kinchlow now that he's disposed of Fleischley.
Yeah, Kinchlow is really, really fast.
Believe the most laps led right now would probably be Daniel Knight. If not, it's getting close. Look to the inside on Mertz from Travis Warling in the 90. He gets underneath him, tries to drift up a little bit, interrupts the momentum of the 265, and that's going to work. So Warling now up to P4 with that move.
Yeah, that was a pretty aggressive move right there, actually. I'm kind of surprised about that, especially given the point scenario for Warling. He really doesn't need to do that, but... Again, same kind of deal. Hey, if you got the car to do it and you got the pace to do it, as we see him trying to pull a move for 3rd, and he's actually got a lot of momentum here. He might even have a chance at Johnson going in a 1.
Christian, correct me if you think I'm wrong on this, but those first 4 cars that pulled away, they seem to be really strong early. And now you start to see everybody to catch back up, including Warling, who really seems to be hot. Almost looks like different setups on some of these guys. Early run and late run.
I'm actually kind of a little bit surprised that, say, Johnson and Mertz, and actually Medeiros as well, are not running better at this point of the run. Because I know that their ethos was a long-run setup. So it's kind of surprising me that there's guys out there who look like they've got even better long-run setups than they do.
I mean, Warling is doing this on his own, Joe. He's going down to the inside and just powering by these guys.
Yep, that gifts him 2nd place. Is he going for the lead? Yeah, he is going for the lead. Look at that number 90 tucked down to the low line, just about a lane up from the yellow. And Knight is going to make this one hard for him.
Thought I saw the 94 might have got in the wall a little bit there.
Yeah, I saw sparks too, but
Yeah.
I'm thinking he might have just been very close.
Another
There you have
one
it.
sent it in deep into turn 3. Can Warling get this done? Yes, he can. Our second lead change of the day. Travis Warling, your new leader, having qualified in 8th. He waited patiently, and the race came to him.
Yeah, not just a lead change. I mean, he drove through 7 cars to get there.
Certainly did, as we look back from Warling at the lap times, consistently faster. Now another change for, I believe this is 3rd place, Daniel Knight on the high side. Taft Baldwin, this is for 2nd, coming through. Starting to see a couple of these teammates come together. Baldwin and Knight, of course. And then don't forget, Fleischle and Callisto have been close together. They got split by the car of Driscoll briefly.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those deals with this new package where what you'll see guys will kind of run around in groups of the same setup. So it makes it a little interesting, especially if you know that the person you're racing against is on the exact same car as you. And especially towards the end of the race where track position is king in those kind of battles, because you know that realistically you're not going to have any advantage over the guy that you're racing if he's on the same car as you.
44 has got a good run here. Sorry, to the inside. He's trying to get by Mertz. He was one of the ones following Taft Baldwin up through the field, and I think maybe he's got this one done. It'll depend on the shot off the corner. Mertz comes back at him. They're about dead even as they come down the backstretch.
I think Kinchler is going to probably get him on this next lap. It looked like he just drove in a little bit too deep into 1 and 2 there, and he wasn't quite able to get the power down as early as he would have wanted to clear him, and he clears him off a 4 quite easily there.
Texas driver now up to P6. You're right, he got it done. Mertz is not done with things. Now it's Driscoll to his inside. Driscoll as well going to demote the 265 down to 8th position. Is he going to get 2 for 1 in this corner, though? Driscoll's car looking pretty hooked up.
Yeah, he carried a huge amount of momentum through 1 and 2 right there. I was really surprised to see him. I've got the camera kind of focused on the top 5, and I could just about see Kinchler. And then I saw Driscoll just come out of nowhere on the inside. He might clear Kinchler here. I think he's... yep, he has.
Wow. So, keep your eyes on the number 51, especially late in the run. Driscoll started this thing in 21st. That gives him 6th position.
Kinchler in 24th, so both of these cars moving in the right direction, as well as Taft Baldwin.
Oh, but things are getting sketchy now. Mertz got a little bit of shove up high by the 44.
Come on, guys, we're so close. We got 5 more laps. We'll see some green flag pit stops. Come on.
I think the count for the weekend right now is that there was 1 green flag pit stop in the international race. There was definitely 0 in the European race. So, can we double the number of green flag pit stops we've had this weekend?
We'll say the European guys were all used to green flag stops already, so they wanted to experience yellow stops.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyway.
That's true. You don't get any yellows and restarts on road courses, so I guess you got to get your money's worth, right?
So, apologies to our European fans. I had to get one crack in at least. Up at the front, it is still Travis Warling leading the way. Baldwin has moved his way into 2nd and is sticking with him. They're starting to drop Daniel Knight in 3rd, about a half second between themselves and the final step on the podium. So I wonder if we're going to get a little bit of a breakaway before we get to the pit stops.
Warling got through those guys and then started to drive away. Taft trying to stick with them. And of course, with the nature of qualifying here in the majors is you really don't know what you really got. It takes a stint or 2 before we see who's really going to be fast in race condition.
That's a good point. Now, Christian, you were taking notice. Oh, and we got a pit stop happening.
Greedy.
This is Warling.
Oh, Warling and McGreevy.
That's
Kinch
pretty much on
loading?
schedule for cutting it to say like 35 lap runs.
Got a few in there. I see, believe that's Thunhorst as well coming in. Before these stops started, I was about to say you had your eyes on Bennett. That looks like he's not having the best of days.
Yeah, I haven't really seen him involved in much, but he's just struggling to make progress. He started 28th, and he was scored 20th before we saw a couple of guys come to pit road there, and he is kind of picking him off slowly, but he's just not making as rapid a progress as some of the other guys who started around him.
Driscoll pits now. Thunhorst,
Bennett.
one of the Alliance teammates of Bennett. Go ahead.
Bennett, the leader in the Legends category, though. Somebody's going to go 42 laps just to make the co-commentator look smart here. Come on, boys.
I would love it if they did, because the first thing I'm doing if they manage that is message them after the race. Now.
Medeiros now pits as well. He had stopped the bleeding finally, our pole sitter. He settled into 14th before the stops. Oh, but he missed his pit stall on a green flag stop, and that is going to be critical for the 84.
Yeah, Medeiros not really having a great day so far, but there is still a long way to go, and we're almost certainly guaranteed to have some yellows, so I think he just needs to kind of get back collected and kind of run a good pace for the rest of the night now, and it might come back to him. We'll just have to see.
Taft Baldwin continuing to pull away from Knight. We're getting closer to your mark, Bill.
Going around again. Come on, Taft. Stay out there, baby.
He's not coming
in.
in.
He is as well. So he's gone longer than I thought. I was pretty sure that 38 laps was as long as you could go.
They're already starting to get some of our drivers who've pitted weaving their way through on the fresh tires, though. Hopefully this doesn't cause any problems, because they're still trying to get back on the lead lap. Riding on board with Warling, chasing down Baldwin is the only car he needs to be back on the lead lap if the caution comes out.
Gotta figure Warling's doing okay out there now on fresh rubber when the pit stops are made. Baldwin's gonna have a hard time.
Yeah, Warling's going to come out quite significantly ahead, I think.
Certainly, Baldwin seems to be banking on that caution. Knight comes in, though. Johnson as well. Mertz joins them, so a three-car
we got a
train.
spinner coming out of pit road.
Who did you see spinning? I had missed it out there.
Well, Jeffrey Schmeier spun going on to pit lane. But it didn't bring out the yellow because he did it out of the line of racing.
Yeah,
And
it was Jeff that I saw coming.
Leaders in.
There he comes.
Baldwin managing not to spin it. You can see the tire marks there off to the side. So Baldwin trundling down to his lane. But you're right, these guys are going to get absolutely destroyed by the early pitters. This has been a long green flag run. So far, no cautions, a few scares here and there. Pretty much everybody coming in now. Bill, you were close. Looks like lap 41.
Close enough. Close enough. I'm going to pat myself on the back there for that one. He got there. I wonder if they're just starting to break it up, thinking if we get to 40, it gets to that 200 laps. You know, maybe they're thinking that far ahead. As if we go green the whole way. That's not going to happen.
Never say never. We'll see. The number 90 looks like he's going to inherit the lead soon because Callisto, Fleischle, Steele, all in. Fletcher's going to be the last one, and yeah, he's coming down to pit lane now.
You know, that's a really good point, though, on the 40s. I hadn't even considered that maybe you could do that. I was kind of looking at it from, say, splitting it in a 100-lap run in a 33s, 33, and a 34 kind of deal. So, yeah, that he was able to go to 40, and now he can split it really evenly to the end. That's actually a much bigger advantage than it initially seems, if it does by chance go green.
We're watching this battle for second. That's McGreevy in the 68, Kinchlow 44, Matthew Thunhorst in his number 98, and Driscoll in the 51. Up on the high side in the yellow, Thunhorst gets a good shot on the high side, tries to get ahead of the 44. Kinchlow stays low. That hasn't been the best of lines before, but they're on fresher tires now. And he at least holds onto it, keeps his nose in it, but starts to fall away down the front stretch. In fact, that's a big lift right there. The 44 thinks better of this battle and falls to the tail.
Also, McGreevy, if you remember, was really good at the beginning of the race. Warling, not so much. Be interesting to see if the setups, if McGreevy can run down Warling, if it takes a little while for Warling's car to come in.
By the way, Thunhorst, who remember started 30th.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, at the back of the pack, he is up to third, fourth, that area now. It took one green flag run, one set of pit stops for him to make his way up to the front. That is just astonishing. He might not have the qualifying pace, but boy, does this Alliance car look good over the long run. Stuck behind the unorthodox cars of McGreevy and Driscoll. He's going to duck down low. Oh, it looked like McGreevy thought that maybe he was clear for a moment and then thought better of it, realizing that he had the Alliance car down there.
In this series, I don't put a lot of weight on qualifying times because there are the two splits, and some drivers spend so much time trying to make the top split because they want to be on GSRC. But sometimes they are better qualifiers than they are racers. It takes a little while to sort out to see who we really have that's a true threat to win.
Boy, this season, though, has really turned that around compared to last season where it seemed like a lot of drivers struggled over race pace. It feels a lot more like we've got the complete package coming to race day as this battle continues on side by side with Thunhorst on the bottom, McGreevy on the top, neither one willing to give way. This is a great example right here, all this fighting for third. Eventually, the 98 is going to slot in the line. He finally gets single file with the rest of them.
So Baldwin sorted out into sixth.
With Kalisto with him.
But of course he's going to be faster if this continues. He went farther. The car, in theory, should be faster a little later on.
If he can draft up to that lead group, then he's got a major advantage right now.
They're going to manage to get a quarter of the way through this race before any cautions at all. So far, so good. The number 2 with a bit of a run and a little tap to the back, a bump draft on the number 5, giving them that little bit more speed down into 1.
We're not that far away from lap traffic as you look at 32nd and 33rd, Pfeiffer and Fletcher in a battle. About a quarter turn ahead of Warling. I love lap traffic.
Because it means that guys like you get screen time?
That's it. That's right, baby.
I know we're watching this, but we can't forget Bob Beltrami, who's got a whole pack of cars behind him. Fleischle, Knight, Johnson, and Mertz stringing back to 12th place. There you see him coming into turn 1 right now. And wow, ducking down low early. Daniel Knight doesn't look like he's content to sit there, but unfortunately can't get the speed in quicker than Fleischle.
And this is actually a group of guys who were pretty much the de facto leaders at the beginning of the race as well. And they've kind of fallen off of that lead group that we've got now, where it sort of looked like it flipped around maybe about 30 laps into the first run, where the guys who were started out at the front kind of started to fall back a little bit into their own pack, and then we saw that those guys like Warling and Driscoll move to the front.
Yeah, in that group we're looking at, take Fleischle out of it. Beltrami is 3rd qualifying, Knight is 7th, Johnson is 2nd, and Mertz is 4th. So a lot of guys who started up front. Fleischle started in 11th.
They're certainly on some of the more recent pit stops. See a lot of 9s, 7s, and 8s in there compared to the drivers up at the front who have about 13 or 12 laps on theirs. The earliest I can see are Thunhorst and Kinchlow on 14 and 15. 15 now, both.
Travis Warling coming up on a lap car, and he gets around the Canadian driver of Joshua Kanata. All right, he's probably not from Canada, but should be.
He's close. It's New York.
Okay.
Just across the border. Yeah, it is honestly very, very weighted towards the States here today, looking through the field. Typically, we have at least a few drivers from either Europe or Australia show up, but I'm not seeing any.
Yeah, Liam Quinn, one of them that are missing. Of course, some of that has to do with the region, and some of that may have to do with just the style of racing.
Yeah, Thunhorst, you saw there, slotting into fourth. Whoa, way up high. What's happened to Kanata? Oh, wait, never mind. That's a lapped car. As soon as I saw the name, I realized what was going on. So Kanata just trying to stay out of the way as he slips down. He's up back in the mid-pack. Ryan Toma, back from his absence, has managed to run in 16th, which is only one position away from where he qualified. So, hey, at least he's consistent on his return.
Just ahead of Adam Young, who sat next to me as we called the Sebring race in the Absolute Beginner League today. Adam was really excited to be out there. First question I had for him, did you make the top split? He said, oh, come on, Soup. Of course I did.
He loves his oval racing.
Yeah.
The Texan trying to represent here today, but he might lose a spot here because Ryan Steele's got to run. But Ryan's going to lift. Ryan's just going to play a patient game here. A lot of drivers seeming to do that. There's our pole sitter back there as well. That bright red machine that you see with the yellow numbers, the 84 of Medeiros, has fallen to 19th now. Still a long race. Still a lot that could happen. Medeiros may have lost his top spot and fallen backwards, but don't count anybody out. Still no retirements yet today. Everybody still running. Ooh, is Warling got a challenge here? Driscoll starting to gain. It's down to half a second.
There's an old joke from the Soviet Union where Stalin gave a speech, and then after he was done, the applause went on for half an hour because nobody wanted to be the first to stop clapping. That's kind of what's going on right now. Nobody wants to be the driver that puts an end to this green flag run.
Oh, wow. We might have a change down for third. I thought we were going to. Kalisto had a monster run on Baldwin, but then decided better of it as it would have meant 3 wide with the number 68. Ooh, 2 looking a little loose off that corner, though, Christian.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at Kalisto, and I'm kind of surprised that he's where he is. And that sounds a bit strange, but hear me out on this. That he's right behind Taft Baldwin, right? But he pitted a lap after Taft, and I'm pretty sure that Taft had a decent lead on him in that first run.
Oh, yeah.
So Kalisto's really played himself into this.
Certainly has. The Alliance driver still battling with the 68. As he tries that low line again. This is where he got a little bit loose before. He can't drift up high because McGreevy's still out there. So this one certainly not done yet.
Talked about Taft Baldwin. This long run couldn't have played more into his hands. He stayed out there the first time. Now his car is really coming in. And he is coming.
We got a little bit of battle ahead of them. Nope, that's Ernie Ludwig getting lapped. Another of our cars going a lap down.
Yeah, but Driscoll is also on the move as they're beginning to gobble up Warling. And it's not about traffic. It is about pace.
Ooh, they're becoming a bit of an accordion, honestly, Bill, because Baldwin also gaining on both of them. So of these 3, the car at the tail of the trio is the fastest.
Let's look at Ludwig quick in 30-30. He's got 2 cars coming up behind him, and the guy that gets pinned is Kalisto. Kalisto's going to try to go underneath him.
Good heads up from the number 2. Didn't panic, didn't lose the car, but boy, did it cost him.
Ernie, I feel for you, buddy. I feel for you. Just keep the car going in the straight direction.
Right on board with Thunhorse, just behind now, having to deal with Ludwig. And I believe we do have Lucky Dogs on, do we not?
I believe we do, yes.
Haven't had a caution to confirm it quite yet, so...
Yeah.
Okay, this,
find out eventually. Yeah.
this traffic is becoming a real factor now as Oki. It's hard to believe that Andrew Oki just went a lap down.
Yeah, again, 5th on the grid for him. This is not looking good.
Pfeiffer does a good job of taking the 0-0 up high.
This is where we need Sean in the booth, because Oki's car always reminds me of Country Time Lemonade, and I can't remember who drove that car back then. This is from the late 90s, I want to say.
I'm going to take a guess, and the YouTubers can correct me. I'm going to go with Kyle Petty on that one, but I might be wrong. I think it was Mountain Dew. I might have went the wrong beverage on that.
Yeah, he was Mellow Yellow, I know, for
Mellow
a while.
Yellow. That's
We'll,
it, yeah.
we'll see if the Peanut Gallery chimes in and tells me who I'm thinking of. Could have been multiple drivers as well. Pfeiffer also getting lapped. It's getting really mixed up. Driscoll not able to do anything with it to try and pass Warling quite yet. In fact, he's still dealing with Fletcher. Now lets him through.
It won't be long until... God, I can't believe I'm saying this. We're looking at another. We're on lap 60. We went from about 38, so we're looking at 76. We're getting close.
Yeah, the 40 plus 40 would be 80 laps.
80, yeah.
We still got a little bit time to go. I can't think that we'd get someone in at this point.
Speaking on that, it's interesting to note that I think Travis Walling pitted around about laps 33 to 34.
Right.
So I expect we'll see him in around about lap 66 if he keeps on his strategy to split like every 100 laps into a third, as it were. Given that, Taft is doing 40 lap runs, so I don't expect to see him come down until about lap 80. So we're going to have quite a divergence on strategy here. And to be honest, I think it's going to be in Taft's favor because the tires don't really drop off after, say, about 20 to 25 laps. So Travis is kind of at a big disadvantage here. I don't think that if by some chance the entire race was to go green, I think that Taft and Lionel are in the best situation here because they are on that longer 40-lap strategy. And I don't think that the tire advantage that, say, Travis and Steve might have by doing that shorter pit strategy is going to make up for how far behind they'll come out.
Driscoll's knocking on the door. He's not just knocking on the door, he's through the threshold. And he is going to take the lead away from Warling, but Warling, with a little bit of an over-under, decides better of it. He's going to lift, and Baldwin says, well, you two can sit there and settle second place because I'm going for the lead down to the inside of Driscoll. I think the number 5 might have this one as they come off a turn 4, and indeed, we've got a new leader, but it's not settled quite yet. Driscoll gets a shot off the turn. Baldwin does lead the lap.
It took just about the entire second fuel run from Warling for Taft Baldwin to make up the ground.
Warling hasn't come in quite yet. He stays in the slipstream of Taft Baldwin, who loses out a little bit to Driscoll on the high side. 51 now leading just by half a car length. Shorter line down at the bottom. Here comes Baldwin once again in the number 5. Leads another lap through.
Okay, stick with me on this because this may get a little convoluted. The first time through, the difference in stints was about 6 laps, right? We figured that Warling came in with about 34 and Baldwin went to 40. This time, the stint's going to be double that. So you got to look for Warling to have even more of an advantage after the pit stops. Maybe. Because Baldwin's going to stay out for 8 more laps instead of 4. I don't know if that made any sense. Somebody followed me on that, right?
I can see where you're going with this.
So the righted shotgun machine up at the front got a little bit of help down the backstretch from Driscoll last time. Driscoll not interested in maybe doing the same thing again because he looks low through 1 and 2. I thought Warling was going to fall off the way that he was caught, but he's settled in behind them, both Driscoll and Taft. They're going to be joined by a 4th car. Here comes Brian McGreevy.
We haven't really said much about Brian, but he's been kind of just running his own race, and he's on a similar strategy to Travis and Steve here, so I think he's kind of locked into those 33-lap runs. I expect we'll see those 3 all kind of pit roughly at the same time.
Oh,
but
we got a car in the pits.
He's doing a solid job right here, running in the top 5.
All right, a first taker for a second stop is Ross Banfield. I'm not exactly sure where he was running before that. I also see that Fletcher has left the session. So we'll have to try and figure out what exactly happened to William Fletcher, if he had a connection issue or what. All right, lap 66. What are we going to get here? Any takers? Nope. Everybody going to stay out.
This is where Warling and Steve proved me completely wrong and somehow managed to do like 4.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to say they can't try and switch their strategy up. If the car drives well on a longer stint, then might as well.
I think if they believe they can stretch the field to that, then absolutely that's what I would be trying to do right now. That said, I don't know if they can, because it's not really like Taft had a lot of fuel left when he pitted around about lap 40.
That first car to pit, Banfield, is certainly making good lap times now, though he's 2 laps down, so he must have been at the tail end of the field when he pitted. Not sure that this will do much other than be a gamble to see if he can get some positions to get him back into the mid-pack. Riding on board now with Travis Warling, still holding down 3rd place. Earliest stopper last time by, stays out 1 more lap.
Yeah, Warling may have, he talked about it, Joe. There's no rule that says he has to follow the same strategy. Got good pace going on.
Coming down here.
Tell you what, someone who may be getting a little bit lonely is our 6th place driver, Thunhorst. He's fallen away from the top group by a big margin. Granted, he's been on quite a long stint. He's on lap 34 of his stint right now. Kinchlow is well behind him on the same number of laps. They were 2 of our first, along with Warling.
Leaders coming up behind Selstadt and Marcus Tracy.
If you're just joining us, we have not had a caution yet, even though we're on lap 70 now in this Michigan 400, round 11 of the majors. Starting to get a little bit thicker with the traffic out there. Tracy stays up high, lets Baldwin through. Then Seilstad, is he going to do the same? Yes, indeed, just going to try and make sure that the leaders can get by without too much drama.
If I knew the race was going to be so fast, I would have got here on time.
Oh, that was a moment for Tracy, though. Oh, that caution is... It could come at any moment. You see things like that.
That must have been a huge scare for McGreevy. He was right behind him.
Tracy's got it collected now. There's McGreevy in the 68. Still sitting in 4th. With a 90, got a good run on Driscoll. Warling doesn't try to do anything with it. McGreevy as well with a good run and gets himself back into that group. Had a few more drivers come in at the back of the pack, taking stops. Oki, Ludwig, and Kanata have all taken their second stop. Nobody from pretty much the mid-pack on up.
Well, I hate to break it to these guys that stopped early the first time around, but they're not going to be able to do it on the same amount of stops that Baldwin is, because he did the 40 laps. These guys have got to come in pretty soon, just out of necessity.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think they can do it. That said, if they're able to maybe even just stretch to, say, doing 1 or 2 runs at a 41 lap, then it might be possible for them to get just about back on strategy. But yeah, Taft has a huge advantage here. He's the only guy, really, I would say. Well, Lionel's on the same strategy as him, but Taft and Lionel are the only guys in maybe the top 7 or 8 who are pretty much on the same strategy to do this 40-lap run comfortably. So I think they've kind of got an easier time. The longer it stays green, the better it is for them.
On screen, we're watching Daniel Knight in 8th as he deals with both lap traffic. Andrew Oakey trying to come back through. Jason Fleischle was trying to get a position on him. And they've got Beltrami, Johnson, and Mertz in line. See Oakey with his fresh tires. Though he's been slower than most of the other cars out there making easy inroads. And we've got Kinchlow in.
It's a lap 74. That's really early.
Yeah, but that, I believe, was a 40-lap stint for him. That might be as far as he could go. He's got nobody with him.
See a couple more coming down as well. I think Thunhorse might have pitted. Or maybe it was McGreevy. No, it's McGreevy, sorry.
Whirling is in. You're right, McGreevy now joins. I think these are all the drivers that went early on the first stop and realized the nature of the race is not what they expected and have now tried to adapt, but it could be too little, too late.
Yeah, these guys really need a caution now, because if they don't get one, they have to make at least a splash and dash at the end of the race, and it's just going to kill them. They're going to lose so much track position and so much time.
So we're still waiting on a few drivers to come in for their second stop. Warling's coming back out, the leader of the drivers who've pitted temporarily.
And they probably don't want that caution right now as they're a lap down. And probably would prefer it all the cycle to work its way through.
Exactly. Something, unfortunately, you can't control in racing is where the cautions fall. Watching,
well, you can if you want to.
I didn't want to say anything. I mean, there's certain names in Formula One we could mention, but we won't. As more drivers now duck in. Looks like that's Driscoll coming from the front of the pack. Thunhorst follows him. We have already outnumbered the number of green flag stops throughout the entire weekend for the others, other regions.
Because this is the Americas region, baby. America.
There is our leader, Taft Baldwin, continuing on. Sitting very pretty right now. Looking to go at least until lap 80. Callisto's in second. Those are not for position with him. That is Ross Banfield, who's a lap down. And then Josh Kanata as well.
But Baldwin won't be the leader when the pit window is done, when the cycle's through. Because he's slow right now.
Seeing that Driscoll is our highest pitter. Well, make that Warling again. As Driscoll was just getting up to speed, Travis able to slingshot by. Is Ross Banfield actually in a battle for position here with Kanata? No, he is not. So he's actually just putting a lap on him. Daniel Knight is in.
So he's 1 lap too soon, but I think he'll be able to find a way of stretching that.
He's riding shotgun machines, as we mentioned, with new paint schemes this race. I was told they are sort of Miami Vice inspired. What that has to do with Michigan, search me.
They're great, though. I really like them. Whoever put those
they're
together,
great.
they are awesome paint schemes.
Interesting enough, Baldwin is your leader right now. The car directly behind him on the track is Travis Warling, a lap down. Travis is a flying. He may unlap himself before Baldwin actually makes the stop.
Fleischle is going to make the Alliance driver coming down to pit lane. Looks like Ray Partridge, the Dog Bear driver, follows him.
So Fleischle's somewhat close on fuel because I believe that was the end of lap 79.
And here comes Baldwin.
Warling goes around him, gets his lap back. Go ahead, Christian.
Baldwin is completely on schedule. He's running a completely perfect race right now. It couldn't be working out any better for him.
Oh, and now you will discover the joys of the commentator's curse, Christian. Being up in the booth instead of down on track. So we'll see if Baldwin actually gets to the end.
Yeah, I hope not. I hope I didn't just kill.
Little Train is leading, baby.
Only temporarily. Callisto still needs his second stop. Is he actually doing that right now? He's ducking down low. I don't think so. Nope, he's going to stay out.
So this is kind of curious because he doesn't need to do this.
No.
He's plenty to the good here. So I'm actually kind of curious as to why Lionel's doing this. I'm wondering if he's maybe trying to get a little bit of a tire advantage over Taft, perhaps.
Well,
Because we saw Taft was able to run back up to those guys who pitted earlier than he did.
always
Maybe
nice
be
to be
back
out
on-
front if a yellow were to fall. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
True.
Beltrami now back out. Looks like he's going to return in 9th. There's Daniel Knight. Nope, Daniel Knight's going to get by him, so is Fleischle. Looks more like 12th place because Jonathan Medeiros should be able to get by once he's up to speed, or have I spoke too soon? No, Beltrami's up to speed. He is going to get 11th.
Can we look at our reader real quick? This is Callisto. This is kind of an interesting little solar eclipse going on here. There's Taft Baldwin getting his lap back.
Oh, did Ryan Steele run out of fuel? Ryan Steele is very slow on the apron. He's in second right now. I think he is. I think the 15 pushed it way too far. No caution, though. He is able to limp it to pit lane, but disaster for the number 15.
Yeah, it's such a shame. I was actually just about to mention how he'd also managed to get himself onto this longer strategy, but that's pretty much all for naught now because he's just lost so much time having to kind of coast the back half of the track.
And the other Alliance driver of Lionel Callisto down into pit lane. The last of the drivers that needed to take their second stop will hand the lead over to Travis Warling. Now, Warling does have a little bit of a tag-along. Jeff Schmeier is riding behind him, just using the draft. That's splitting himself and second place, or what will be second place, Steve Driscoll.
Joe, GSRC, they pay us the same amount no matter how long the race actually is, right? The commentators, the fact that we were getting through this so fast, I want to make sure I don't get
Yeah.
a deduction. Okay.
Yeah, there's an estimate.
It's per race. Okay, all right.
Yeah. You want me to talk pay on air?
Well,
live with you? Okay.
I don't know if you knew or not. I just want to make sure I wasn't deducting.
I do
because
know.
it's
I
going by
just
so
wasn't
fast.
sure
Okay.
how much we wanted to talk to our viewers about the
Okay.
inner workings of GSRC here. So as we continue on lap 84, as you can see, Steve Driscoll only about a half a second behind Travis Warling. And he's also
Soup knows what he wants.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's a hard bargainer. Taft Baldwin make him second place now. Baldwin is flying.
Wow. He's there faster than I thought he would be. I didn't think he would be this close.
Also, look at this battle going on. That's McGreevy and Thunhorst. Thunhorst down on the low side, and then the yellow number 98, McGreevy, and the number 68. That's not for position behind them. That's Rob Powers, who is a lap down. Some hard fighting here, trying to settle out fourth position just outside the podium.
Yeah, this is easy, boys. Not sure how important this position really is. But I guess they're in control.
Yeah, it's hard but fair, as they say. Oh, and Baldwin up into the lead.
Oh my goodness, he got there really fast.
6 lap fresher tires will do it. So let's take a look at how this happened. The number 90 really had no way to hold him back. Look at this. Even with the lapped car in there to act as a buffer, 2 for 1, and that brings the number 5 up to the top spot.
That pretty much comes back to what Soup was saying, actually, that kind of his advantage is going to be doubled, and I guess tripled relative to the first cycle, and it's going to keep going that way, and that's where this whole, I don't want to say 33 lapper because they're kind of not doing that. The guys who are doing the shorter strategy, it seems really weird to me that they're not committing fully to doing those 33 lap runs because they're running out to like lap 70 and so on, whereas if they were doing 33s, they'd be running to like 66 and 67. So it's really confusing to me because they're not taking they're doing neither. They're not getting enough fuel mileage to do the long strat, but they're not getting any benefit from what they're doing.
Couldn't agree more. If you're gonna do it, get advantage of coming in early.
Right, exactly.
Because you have the same amount of pit stops if it's whether you go 33 or 38, right? I mean, you have to take the same amount of pit stops.
I think this is where the teams that have someone up on the box working just for strategy have an advantage here today. And I'm not sure that every team really has someone doing that, or if they are, they aren't thinking the same way you guys are. This is the battle for 11th that we're watching. Josh Cully at the front of that train of cars. That's Medeiros behind him, Toma and the group, Partridge, Mertz, and Johnson. Boy, Mertz has really fallen off the wagon today. He started from 4th.
Yeah, unfortunately for those guys, Johnson, Mertz, and Medeiros, they've kind of all sort of faded a little bit. I know they've all been kind of working together, so it's a bit of a shame to see all kind of slide back a little. Maybe later in the race, if it goes a bit more short run, it might come back to them a little bit, but I'm sure they're a bit disappointed with how this is running right now.
Ooh, big run down into turn 3 for Toma on Medeiros, but he can't do anything with it. He checks up so that he doesn't get into the back of that red machine. What was a battle for 11th is starting to split apart because Cully is pulling away. Instead, now it's a battle for 12th. Medeiros trying to fend off all comers.
Viewers, to be honest with you, Christian and mine conversation about pit strategy, it's really philosophical, like why is the sky blue? We get a yellow flag and all this, everybody gets back on the same. Everyone gets right back where they were.
We're about to hit halfway without a caution, though.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you've said it now.
Yeah, well, maybe I'm trying to throw a wrench in the mix. Who knows? As we look at the number 51, running 3rd place, Steve Driscoll. Also falling off of Warling and Baldwin. Baldwin just, he is taken off like a shot. He's already got a 2.5 seconds over the next car back.
Well, I'm telling you, though, if you get between the ears of the drivers, you go 91 laps of green flag racing, you do not want to be the guy that causes that yellow flag. If you're in a yellow fest, who cares if you're one of the guys who make a mistake? We may go green the whole way.
It would be a really interesting race in terms of strategy to see that, because as it stands, I think the only 2 people who have a chance of winning this race if it was to go green the whole way is Callisto and Baldwin, because nobody else in that kind of top group of guys right now is able to make it to the end on 1 less pit stop aside from those 2. So if it did go green, it's absolutely between those 2, and I think the interesting thing for me, which is not really going to be able to be played out kind of on screen, is if Lionel, with his newer tires now, because he's got 4 lap fresher tires than Taft, is how much he can run Taft down over this run.
Watching Jonathan Medeiros lose yet more positions. Once Toma got underneath him, Ray Partridge was not going to sit around. The Dog Bear car is looking to see if he can finally solidify this 13th. As they come into turn 1, has he finally got it? Yeah, I think he has now cleared the number 84.
This little pod of whales here has yellow flag written all over it. Let's little bump draft there from the 84 of Madeira and back of Partridge. Careful, guys.
Well, the good news is they all speak whale, so that seems like they've been able to make that pass happen cleanly. As now they're going to try and break the draft down the front stretch. Toma ducking down low to see if he can get Partridge away from him. And they've caught back up to Cully. I said that he was pulling away. Well, nix that. Now that Toma's got to the front of the group, he's run him down very quickly. So it is once again back to, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars fighting amongst each other. Oof, but Medeiros is feisty about trying to get that one back from Partridge. Look at that move.
Yeah, he's kind of on the sort of pseudo-preferred line right here, being on the top. But Partridge has been able to get clear before he got down into turn 1 and probably ended any chance that Medeiros had right there.
That certainly checked them up a little bit because you can see they dropped a gap up to Toma and Cully. Those two starting to pull away a little bit. I'm sure they'd be happy to let them fight amongst themselves. Well, they try to see if they can run down the next car up, which would be Bob Beltrami just
in the wall.
top 10.
That was Mertz.
Yeah, it looked like he just got loose off of 4 and had the wiggle and he had enough to kind of get it straightened out before he got to the wall. Did look like he kind of got in it fairly good, so that's going to hurt him for sure.
And no caution still. The 265, he looks a little bit down on pace. To his low side was Daniel Johnson. Probably glad that he gave him plenty of room off the corner. There you see the 265 continuing to fall back now that he's in 16th and dropping.
He hit it pretty good, but he hit it pretty flush. It was a nice slap.
Certainly doesn't break up this group, though. Still being led by Josh Cully in 11th. Toma had a little bit of a look down into 1. Nothing doing there. Medeiros drifting up a little bit high, looking to get momentum off the corner. He gets a little bit, but just not quite enough. Partridge also with a slipstream on Toma. He's going to duck down low. And here comes the 88. Deep into the corner, but has to check up when he can't drift up. And a big bobble. Was that Toma? That was. He catches it. Look at the momentum that lost him. Can we get a replay on board the 908?
I was going to say, he might have lost out in the battle, but it was a great save.
Certainly did. Look at this little snap. Woohoo.
And I mean, those are the ones that, like, they're the evil ones that wreck you. Because they just, like, you feel the rear end kind of just, it does this weird thing where it's almost like the track bar just disconnects for a moment. And you go, oh no, because you know exactly what's about to happen.
Well, back to our leader as we come back live. Baldwin leading by 1.5 seconds at this point. We'll take a quick break here at the halfway mark of the Michigan 400, round 11 in the majors. Don't go away. We've got a lot more racing left to go. Welcome back to Michigan International Speedway. We're watching round 11 of the majors. It's the Michigan 400. Your current leader is Taft Baldwin. And though he pulled out ahead and pulled himself a nice little gap, it's starting to swing back a little bit. Travis Worling has cut down that second and a half lead to about a second. Driscoll currently runs in third. But we've got a lot of packs of cars running hard against each other, and though we have not had a single caution, there keeps being moments where it looks like eventually we could get one. If we could jump back to Ray Partridge in 11th, because really this one has been hot for a while. Cully now on the high side being challenged by the 88, and the 474 of Johnson is a little bit bottled up as he gets a run down the back stretch. He's going to make it 3 wide anyways. Here we go. Is this the danger we've been waiting for? Way up high, Cully tries to carry the speed. He does so successfully. The 474 tight down to the low line. This is going to be a horrid run on the front stretch for him. And it plays out just as you'd expect, but look at Medeiros try to take advantage of this. Oh, and he has to get checked up.
Yeah, I think Medeiros might have been going down there to kind of help Dan out a little bit, and I was somewhat worried that could have got really completely 3 wide side by side going into 1, because as you kind of saw there coming off of 2, Dan's car just does not have the grip to run that bottom line as well as you need to do to execute that pass.
It's Toma there in the 908. The yellow and black car also involved. Cully up on the high side, loses out mid-corner. Partridge ducking it down low. Partridge doesn't look too bad, though, here on the straight. Could he finally get it done if he takes it in deep into turn 1? He's coming in awful shallow. The 88 looking to take this 11th place away. And he doesn't gain a whole lot on entry.
Just marginally clear on exit there.
This might not work out in his favor, though. Here comes Cully back at him. The 388 gets to the low side with a good run. He gets a nose ahead, but it starts to swing back for the 88.
It did.
Oh, maybe it didn't. Ooh.
Yeah, they ran really... The guys on the top side there ran so high. They gave the bottom line so much room.
Johnson had to get out of that big time as well. He felt something was going wrong. That he lifted, and Medeiros closed up on him. Still, this battle continues. The 88 of Ray Partridge now bottled up behind Cully. But down on the low side, Toma's car out of grip. Look at it drop like a rock.
Yeah, it looked like Toma drove in really deep. I thought he was going to pull a huge slider there, but didn't. Kind of half-halved it, really. Like, he committed to it and then kind of pulled his punch at the last minute, so he got the worst run he possibly could have had off of 2.
Was that Johnson clipping the wall there?
I believe it was. And all this horseplay has allowed Adam Young and Rob Gall and Joshua Mertz to get into the mix. Easy, boys. And the tires are old.
Yeah, that's a good point. We're seeing a few drivers towards the back take stops, but nobody up here at the front. So this is now becoming, what, about 8 cars altogether? They go single file for a little bit. I don't think this is going to last.
I think they might be all getting ready for a pit stop.
That's a good point.
I was just going to say, this is 11th through 18th, all in this one big group.
This would be awful early, though. Almost everybody is still on about 30 laps here in this pack. Really, it's the cars way up at the front that are closest, as down to the low side, Toma trying to overtake Partridge, and then here comes Johnson. That brush with the wall didn't hurt him too bad because he manages to get below Cully.
And crucially now, he's kind of a line leader, as it were, so he's got some clean air on the note. You can kind of see right there, he's able to run the bottom much better through 3 and 4 than he's been able to before when he's been kind of deeper in that pack.
It's getting very tight behind him. Medeiros, along with Ray Partridge, had a hairy moment coming off of 4. They're getting more and more aggressive.
In Medeiros' defense, I've seen him have some incredible runs that he has just bailed out of because there was nowhere to put the car.
Certainly seems to be the story of his race. The 84 is fast at points, but can't do much with it. Once again, both of them drifting up high. That looked a little bit more orderly than the last lap. Young not trying to push the issue. Same thing with Toma down low. This is going to work out for Partridge well, who gets a great shot off the corner.
Yeah, I think Toma's the one that's really in trouble here. He's stuck on that bottom line. He tried the big slider, and it kind of checked at Partridge a ton, and oh, we might have our first yellow here.
Young holds onto it, and he catches it! Holy cow! What a save!
Epic save.
Still no caution. Here we go from on board Young. You're right, it's Partridge who's going to catch the wall. And that just, you know, it almost looks like Young just lost the car on his own in that. Trying to check up.
I mean, it's really easy to do because turn 2 is really the danger corner here. And if you have to kind of do any kind of line alteration, it can really mess you up. But it was a great save. I thought he was going around completely.
Somebody get Alex Horn on the line. That looks like a top 10 highlight for me. Looks like Young elects to come in after that scare, get himself some fresh tires and maybe some fresh underwear. Whirling in. McGreevy as well. That's about expected. I think we're going to see Thunhorst in soon. He's on lap 38 of his stint. Also, I was wrong. Young is going to stay out because he's not quite to his pit window.
So those guys who just came down now, they are 7 laps short of where they need to be.
The plot thickens. Warling is back out. The highest of the drivers who've completed 3 stops.
Even with a yellow flag, Christian, that's not enough to get there. You're gonna need a couple yellow flags on a stint to be able to stretch.
It will be 1 yellow will make them very close, I think, because you're usually about 5 laps up the yellow. So then they'd be looking at maybe being about 1 to 2 short, and if they're in the pack, it's possible to save.
Okay.
But yeah, it's still tight for them.
So we ride on board with Thunhorst. Woof! Look at the 90 of Warling using those good tires, making it look like a slalom as he weaves through cars. This will be number 40 for Thunhorst. I'll be amazed if he stays out. And he's staying out. He's not coming in. But
51 of Driscoll is, though.
yes, he is indeed. So, down the pit lane, looking for his stall. This is going to be crucial that he hits it cleanly, and he does.
I actually think now Baldwin might be far enough ahead. He might be able to make that stop and come out ahead of Warling. Warling's flying on new tires, but Baldwin's coming in 2 laps from now.
Josh Cully in the 388 pitting as well.
Yeah, that's
Driscoll
definitely
heading
possible.
out now. Thunhorst finally takes his stop. And that's just behind Cully, his teammate. Looks like Warling was easily able to beat Driscoll out. Driscoll with 3 lap fresher tires. Is that going to be enough of a difference? Taft Baldwin, currently our leader, stays out yet another lap. Who is going to be able to take this one the longest? While the lack of cautions has spread the field out, it has made it one of the most fascinating strategy races we've seen in a while here on the majors.
Poor
See, this is... Sorry, I was just going to say, I think everybody who's pitted already at this point is short, or they are, at best, they're going to have to save at least a lap over these last 2 runs if
Here
they're
comes
going
the
to try
leader.
to stretch it out.
Yeah, Baldwin is in.
And I expect Callisto now to go around for a while like he did last time and hope for a yellow flag to come out during these few little laps here, and he can catch a few guys out.
Lito's been doing 41 lap stints, and he is on 36. So, yeah, he's got a little ways to go now.
It's interesting that Taft just pitted, though, because he actually pitted 1 lap earlier, and he should have.
Yeah.
Maybe the fuel mileage wasn't as good. They were pack racing a whole lot more before.
I think something happened. Yeah. Baldwin missed his box.
No. This will definitely put him a lap down. He's going to have to come around again. Does he have enough fuel?
Oh, God, that's an interesting point, too.
Sorry to interrupt, Bill. Go ahead.
Well, Chris and I were talking about him being able to pit and come out ahead of the guys he was racing with, and sure enough, I watched. Well, he's coming out way ahead, but that's easy when you don't actually stop for a gas.
Yeah, I really feel for him because it kind of does look like he just missed where his pit box was, and yeah, I think he's really given up a chance to win that right there by doing that. I mean, it could still be a yellow, but it's really hurt him. I think that puts Lionel in a completely commanded position now.
That's Bob Beltrami that we saw coming in for his stop. Oh, and just in front of him, Daniel Johnson. Oh, and both Mertz as well. Both of them going way beyond their pit stall and having to back up. It was much cleaner for the 14 who is back out and running. So Warling will inherit the lead soon, but it's still Lionel Callisto continuing on a long, long time, who is up at the front of this race.
I was just going to talk about Callisto, and I felt sorry for him because he had the perfect strategy. The only problem was he just didn't have the pace to beat Baldwin, but now Baldwin's out of the picture. This is Callisto's race now.
Yeah, I think the former champion might be onto something here.
I mean, he's more than to the good on fuel now, and he's now the only person who is. So he's got to be praying for this to stay green at this point.
It's only got to go 78 more laps, and he's coming in now. Callisto only went 39 that time, though.
Don't miss your box.
He did, but he pitted on, I believe, the end of 123. So he's definitely got enough, even if he only does 39 lap runs to the end from here.
Yeah.
This will hand the lead back to Warling.
Again, Christian, again, you're thinking too, there's no reason for him to stay out and run on old tires and lose time now. He's good to go. Just split it up into even halves, and I like it.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he's definitely beyond where he needed to be, so why not just come down, you know?
There you see the number 2 returning to the track. Where is this going to put him? I think along with Lynn Kinchlow, so around 6th or 7th place. So something we haven't talked about in all this is the championship implications as well. Remember, Warling is chasing Thunhorst in the points, who is currently our points leader. But right now, Warling is ahead, and by a good margin, about 3 seconds between them.
I think points-wise, this race is going pretty well for Warling. I know he's going to drop back a little bit. If it does go green, then he's definitely got to pull at least a short splash and dash. So he's going to drop away from where he's running, but with most of his main competitors kind of either on the same strategy as him or not even in the same race as him, I think this is going to be a relatively good day for him.
Certainly will, but I have to imagine he'll be hoping for those 500 points for the win, because that's 50 more than Thunhorst will get if they finish as they are now. And though that won't get him the lead over Thunhorst, that cuts down a 156-point lead by a good chunk.
That's true. Sorry, I was just going to ask, When was the last time that we actually saw Lionel Callisto win a race? I'm curious.
Mike,
Well, he
if
is
you're
a
watching.
former champion. He must have won one when he won his championship, I would think.
Yeah, he did. I believe it was very few, though. But I know Mike is usually listening in, and he tends to have stats at the ready. So, Mike, when was the last time we saw Callisto Little Train win a race? In fact, let me see. He has not won one this season. He's had 2 top 5s, which is good enough for 7th in the points. As we watch Daniel Knight just ahead of Jason Fleischle and Brian Bennett. Bennett, though, is not in for position amongst these two. He's a lap down.
Speaking of guys a lap down, Taft is actually now also scored down. In
Where did he
20th.
cycle out?
I think he's cycled to 21st right now.
Yes, you're right. And 1 lap down. We only have 11 cars on the lead lap. Ray Partridge is the last of those. He's close to getting lapped by Warling coming through. He's looking a little old school NASCAR, honestly, Bill.
It is indeed. I'll have to follow up on Baldwin. He really shouldn't be a lap down. I wonder if he ran into more issues.
So we see Callisto with those fresher tires. 7 laps fresher than those ahead of him. 10 laps fresher than McGreevy that just went by. Is really slicing through the field. That gives him 4th place.
I mean, honestly, it's going to be pretty trivial for him to cut through
Right.
these. Gets tire advantage.
Christian, you kind of stole my. That's as long as he can stay within shouting distance of the leaders. It's really he just needs to stay out of trouble because it's not a matter of pace now. It's just getting there.
Yeah, without kind of trying to put too much pressure on him, he's in such a commanding position. The only thing he can do is screw up. Like, nobody's going to beat him on strategy. Nobody's going to beat him on raw speed because of the tires. He just has to go around, log laps, pass the cars when he gets to them, and just stay out of trouble.
Bill, are you still near that wood?
The longer we go, and again, the pressure on the drivers not to make a mistake gets that much more important. So, yeah, I think we got a shot at this. I mean, if we were going to jinx it, we would have jinxed it by now. We've been talking about it long enough. Yeah.
Callisto still got 7 seconds up to Driscoll. So ways to gain up to that group we're seeing just ahead of them. That is Thunhorst. And things have evened out between Thunhorst and Warling. It is still 3.5 seconds between them. At this point, they're cruising and trying to work their way through a lot of lap traffic, you have to say. This is Adam Young, Daniel Johnson, and Rob Gall in amongst them.
To be honest, it's kind of lap traffic that might spoil this long run.
Really, the
Just
closest
trying to get it through him.
The closest fight up with this top group is for second, Thunhorst and Driscoll. Driscoll split by Rob Gall up to Thunhorst in the 98. So we ride on board with Steve.
And now you got a lot of drivers with different agendas. You got guys on newer rubber, guys on older rubber, guys on the lead lap, guys several laps down, guys fighting for positions, guys kind of getting out of the way. Yeah, it starts to get a little bit chaotic.
Another question for the Peanut Gallery stats-wise. When was the last time in the real world we had a cautionless race in NASCAR? I know that happened at Talladega once.
I think with that, you might have to put the stipulation in there that excludes like stage breaks and stuff. Because I think they count those as yellows.
Yeah, see, I mean, we won't have any in the last few years. I count those as cautions still. I'm talking green flag from the first wave of it all the way to when the checkers fell. So, in fact, I think that cautionless race at Talladega set the speed record, average speed record for a NASCAR race, and I'm not sure that it will be broken. At least not until things change in the rulebook.
What we're looking at right here, what our director's fan, this is Adam Young ahead of Daniel Johnson. Then the third car in line, that's Matthew Thunhorst. The car in the very back is Driscoll. Driscoll's in third, Thunhorst's in second, and the car that I left out, fourth in line, that's Rob Gall.
I was talking about earlier, this is a battle for position between Thunhorst and Driscoll. Oh, we got a car up high and the wall.
He keeps it up there.
That's
Ross
Banfield.
Banfield. Woo! That's why it's 777. You're extra lucky.
That did check up the cars a little bit. Let's watch the replay. No change of position amongst them, though. Oh, he was way up in the marbles.
Yeah, and that's kind of one of those weird scenarios where, as a lap car, you can actually be too nice by trying to go so far out of the way. You can actually you end up running in areas of the track that you're not used to, and you end up with situations like that where he was way higher than I think he's probably been all race, and it probably kind of frightened him a bit.
Tell you what, even if we get a caution here, there's not going to be too many drivers that are going to be able to fight for the win, because Ray Partridge, who is in 11th, is about to get lapped by our leader, Warling. Oh, and he starts to lose it.
Not
Catches
today.
it. Woo.
Nobody spins today.
It feels like watching a no-hitter, Bill. It's
Oh,
wow, he was sideways. Didn't even reach the grass, though.
This is another great save. We've seen a lot of them today.
So that makes 10 cars on the lead lap now, as we watch from the chopper view on the poor 88. Didn't lose a position out of that, incredibly.
Now, I've been thinking about this a little bit, and we know that we've got Lionel's about 5 seconds off the lead right now. And we're seeing that Walling's having to work his way through these lap cars. Now, it's not in the lap car's interest to let him by. And the reason for that is because some of these lap cars are able to do that longer strategy. So the longer they can kind of keep Walling near them, then the greater the chance that they're going to have of passing him when he eventually needs to pit. So I kind of get the feeling that, say, Walling and Thunhorst and Steve Driscoll, they're just trying to go maximum, chat, to try and get as far as they can, to try and... because they know they're going to cycle out behind. But the more cars they pass and the faster they run now, the less people they're going to cycle out, and they might have a chance of getting past some of these guys who are doing this longer strategy just by being better on raw speed.
We're watching the battle between Kinchlow and Knight. This is for 6th position on screen. These drivers both on relatively different strategies. 6 laps between their last stops.
Kalisto just had a huge moment out of 4.
Oof. And he's in a bunch of cars, so if he loses it, it's greater chances that something's going to come of it. It will cause a caution. Riding behind his Alliance teammates. Woo! Didn't even get the wall out of that. Wow. And that was Ryan Toma ahead of him, who is a lap down from him. Medeiros in there as well. We got some input from the Peanut Gallery. Face, Adam Fasciponti, has chimed in, said there were 3 caution-free races at Talladega. I don't know if these are all the most recent, but 97, 01, and 02. Which one is the fastest one? I don't know.
somehow I think the fans went home from those races feeling gypped. That's just my opinion.
Now I was gonna say something to kind of that kind of tune, actually.
Ooh, speaking of lap cars not helping out, Medeiros doesn't seem to be doing many favors for Callisto right now. So we believe we're This is, and now we switch back to the number 2. Callisto certainly having a hard time getting by the 84, and now I think he's finally done it. No, Medeiros is going to come back with a head of steam, and he decides to lift.
Yeah, I think Callisto had kind of made that pretty clear that he was passing him, and that was the end of that.
Callisto's still running
to
fourth. There's a certain point where I guess you have to eventually give up the ghost. In fact, almost looks like he's giving him a little bit of a push. Callisto's starting to fall off of the leaders now.
I'm not sure Lionel really needs any help from Jonathan there. Just leave me alone. Yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned that Callisto's falling off a little bit. I noticed that as well. The gap has kind of lengthened out some, and I'm wondering why that is. I'm 100% certain he's got on fuel to do this to the end, but maybe he feels like he isn't.
Maybe managing the tires, especially after that scare.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, maybe he's kind of just realized what we were saying, that he's in such a commanding position that he doesn't need to do anything other than roll around the track, and he's just really backed it off. That said, though, I mean, he's 11.7 behind the leaders right now, and I think for him to really be in any danger of losing, he needs to be over 20 seconds behind them when they pit.
Yeah, that would be a pretty amazing splash and go, huh?
Right. Yeah. They would still struggle to even get close to him with that.
So as we watch them continue to circulate, again, if you're just joining us, we've gone caution-free this entire race, and we're just about 3/4 of the way through a Michigan 400. Travis Worling is your leader, but he is on a significantly different strategy from Lionel Callisto, who we suspect might be the most likely to take the win right now. But it's all going to be a question mark until we get to the checkered flag.
We think Worling. We look at P6. We think Worling, Thunhorse, and Driscoll all need to make a stop and a splash and go, and Callisto is good to go on one full stop.
Now that's Daniel Knight down on the low side that you see was overtaken by Kinchlow, who got up to 6th. That's Kyle Murphy. He's not racing for position. He's down in 22nd. Going to let them through.
Doing my research on Lynn Kinchlow, that poor guy gets dropped and added to teams left and right. I'm not sure if he's actually racing for somebody right now. They have that rule where they can just move you in and move you out, kind of bench you or start you.
Right now, he's on the factory team, the unorthodox driver in the 44. Daniel Knight's going to try to get the position back and down into 3. He works his way up into 6th once again.
Well, Lynn, check your email after the race. Make sure you're still there for the next one. Good battle going on.
If he gets a 6th place, I think he deserves a spot on the factory team. Oh, and here comes Andrew Oakey. He's many laps down.
3 laps down, but having a lead lap fun.
Still things swapping around between Knight and Kinchlow. Bill, are those spidey senses tingling yet?
Yep. They are indeed.
Keep moving back and forth around like this, and might not always go right between them. Currently, Knight holds 6th, and Kinchlow holds 7th, but Kinchlow ducks down low with a good run off the corner. Takes her right back. If I didn't know better, I'd say they'd be working together.
I hope so.
I mean, you can kind of do that a little bit. I mean, they are swapping reasonably effectively. I mean, you see that at Indianapolis with the IndyCar. Now, I didn't really test it that much myself, but it did feel like you could kind of use the toe down the front stretch and just keep flip-flopping between each other and not really lose anything out of it. So it might be something that they're messing around with.
See if they can gain any more on the leaders. We're getting close to stops once again. Worling is on 34 right now. Speaking of the leaders, though, the Driscolls caught up to Thunhorse. There's no longer a car between them. This is the battle for second. They ride about 6 seconds behind Travis Worling, our overall leader. And all those cars around them that you see are cars that are laps down.
Andrew Young, the lead car, or Adam Young, the lead car out there of that group in 11th, with maybe the catch of the day. Daniel Johnson behind him. Here comes the other guys.
It's going to be Young or Partridge, one of those two.
Yep.
Catch of the day. Did they award a fish for that prize?
Yeah. Catch of the day. That's good.
So we rode on board with the unorthodox driver of Driscoll, still chasing down the Alliance driver. Have not made moves to lap these cars in quite a while. Have just been logging the laps. We are down to 9 cars on the lead lap. Josh Cully has been lapped since we last looked at that number.
Bob the Salami Beltrami in 9th, the last car on the lead lap. He's in a battle with Jason Flashley right now for 8th.
And he's actually in a really good spot in terms of strategy too. He might be very tight on fuel, but he's got a significant advantage on Flashley in front of him. He pitted 4 laps later. He's only 2 laps on strategy behind Lionel, so
Yeah.
Beltrami might be lined up for a really good finish here if he can stretch this. If he can stretch this run out to maybe 159 or 160, then he's one of maybe 5 people who can get to the end on only 1 stop.
The problem is he may not be close enough to Driscoll and or Worling and Worling, where Worling might be able to make that splash and go and still stay out in front.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to challenge for, say, the 3 spots or maybe even 5 spots.
So we watch Fleischle just ahead of him on those older tires, being caught bit by bit by the number 14, coming out of 4 now once again. And Kenchlow, one of our earliest pitters, consistently meets his expectation yet again, and he is down pit lane. And our leader is in. Worling pits.
Yeah, it's extremely early. He's 8 laps short of his of what we expect the target to be to get to the end is.
And we should only have 1 more stop after that, do we not?
Lash and go for Worling, yeah.
Yep.
Director, can we go to like 16th position here? Matt Gelder's in a mix with Brian Toma. I just got a bad feeling for this one.
Toma
Hurley
holding.
Ludwig trying to get out of the way down low.
Yeah, Toma in 15th, Gelder 16th, and also
I remember him.
Taft
Baldwin.
Baldwin trying to come back through the field. I had a hesitation there because I was like, wait. What?
Oh, poor Taft. He was in the Lionel Callisto position, but better. And then he missed his pit box and other stuff happened to him.
And speaking of catch of the day, I mean, for Taft, this is going to be the one that got away. He was looking incredibly strong. It would have been a good points haul. He's going to slip through his fingers. He did manage to get by Gelder there and move himself back up to 13th. He's still lapped down, though. Unlikely he's going to get that one back unless we get a caution flag.
You can see on the tower there to screen left, Worling cycles out in 6th.
Wow, such is the pace they've been running. He's had his pit stop, and he's still within the top 10. Just incredible.
So looking at that, actually, he's come out, according to the timesheet, about 6 seconds behind Beltrami. Like I say, if Beltrami can really stretch it out to 160, he's within a good shout of possibly the top 5.
There we see the number 90 continuing on around. Still waiting for other cars to come in. Wow, they are so early that it's now been multiple laps, and we still haven't gotten anybody else coming down the lane.
I feel like we're going to see Thunhorst and Driscoll in maybe this lap or the next lap.
Now they're on 39 laps right now. They're coming up through turns 3 and 4, right on board with Driscoll, looking up ahead. I'm not seeing motions to come down, and they are going to stay out. You know,
This will be 40 laps for them.
Yeah, Driscoll's been sitting behind Thunhorst for a long, long time. Could he have been saving fuel, maybe?
It's entirely possible. It's just a question of how much he's been able to save. I don't suspect he will have been able to save more than 2 laps, and I feel like he was more than 2 laps short. But we'll have to see here. It's going to really depend on if he pits this time, I think.
And a lot of that time, Thunhorst was behind drivers as well as they were working their way through lap traffic, so probably not as much as you might think.
They do both stay out, though.
On to lap 40 now. Medeiros should be coming in. He's on 39. In fact, he comes in right now. Oh, and it's a very squirrely entry. Did he speed on pit lane?
Are we not getting... These guys are getting real close to the...
They're almost going to make it,
right?
yeah. They're on 158 now.
Gelder in.
It's still 42 laps if they pit this time, though.
Yeah, that's awful tight. That's coasting to the line, I think.
I'm pretty sure Steve Driscoll's pitting this time. Yep, both of them are coming down.
All right, the 98 and the 51 have been glued at the hip. They look for their boxes. Callisto continues on by, gifting him the lead yet again. He's got about 5 more laps if he wants it, if his fuel has stayed the same.
Christian, those drivers have got to be second-guessing themselves. Why didn't I go a couple laps longer that first stint?
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like you made that decision so early in the race, and now you've had over 100 laps to go. Why did I do that? But they've, to be fair to Thunhorst and Driscoll, they've done a really good job of maybe making this work.
They're in the ballpark.
It's going to be very tight for them. They might be very, very slow the last 2 laps of the race, but we'll have to see.
And that puts the pressure on Callisto to keep the pace up, because he may have to race for this.
Yeah, he might have to run them down and pass them.
Well, he certainly will have a lot fresher tires. There you see our leader, the number 2, running an incredible bit of strategy in a race that I don't think many would have predicted that has gone green since the start. We now have 40 laps to go. He is well within the window. Beltrami now inherits second because of that, but Warling is very close behind. Looks like Thunhorst back out in P5 after his stop. Driscoll follows him. Ray Partridge now in, coming down pit lane. Back pit lane getting a little bit busy. Beltrami's in. Interesting.
Now, I think he was on lap 159, but he's on the verge of going a lap down. So I'm pretty sure he can make it.
Let's see, Rob Gall is still out. He needs to pit. So does McGreevy. Looks like Johnson just came in and comes to his stall. Right on board with our leader, Lionel Callisto. He continues around for one more lap. As more cars duck in below him, that's Gall and Seilstad.
So all these guys who pitted at lap 160 or later, I'm 100% confident they can all make it.
The interesting is Thunhorst and Driscoll, right? They're the guys who are close.
They're very close. Everybody who pitted before them, I don't think can make it. Those two are borderline as to whether they can get this to work.
And Kalisto's headed in. Kalisto's down on the low side through 3 and 4. Comes down to the cones. He made 39 laps. He is well within it. And he hits pit lane. Travis Warlane behind him, coming around and getting ready to take the lead back. But for how long?
Yeah, and the big question here is how far behind is Kalisto going to come out relative to, say, Thunhorst?
Right. Which means how slow can they go?
Yeah.
What's interesting about Thunhorst and Driscoll right now, they have found themselves, they've tucked in behind Adam Young. Young probably has enough pace where Thunhorst can just sit there and save fuel.
Interesting thing about these three as well is you've got 3 different teams in this group that could be potentially working together. Young for riding shotgun, Thunhorst for Alliance, and Driscoll for Unorthodox. By the way, Kalisto returns to the track in 4th place.
And not that far behind Thunhorst and Driscoll where Lionel can't pick up the pace and see if he can run him down.
He's got 5 lap fresher tires. Driscoll is 5 seconds up the road. Driscoll and Thunhorst together, as you mentioned. Warlane 15 seconds up the road from Kalisto. But again, that should be eaten up with ease once Warlane has to come in for what we expect will be his last splash and dash and be on his way. You know, one thing I'm noticing on the outside of the course, guys, is we experienced it a little bit when we had the lapped car get into the marbles, but with no cautions, there's been no chance for them to clean the track. It is getting very, very dirty up on the highest line.
Yeah, 3 and 4 looks pretty much like a gravel trap up there with how many marbles.
So certainly don't want to let the car drift up too high anymore, or else it could be lights out pretty quickly. The number 98 of Thunhorst, who is on much fresher tires than our leader, Warling, seeing if he can make inroads.
I'll tell you who's coming. Kalisto is just flying in relationship to Thunhorst and Driscoll with those new tires. He's knocking off maybe a second a lap.
He set his fastest lap of the race last lap at a 38.6.
Yeah, his best bet is to get there as fast as he can and just apply pressure so they can't save, because they can't let him by.
Right.
If he even gets clear once, they won't repass him. They can't. They don't have the fuel to do it. They don't have the tires to do it. He is absolutely in the best position right now.
And you know what? I wonder if his pace before really kind of was a bit of playing possum, if you will, since he was saving fuel, because he set another fastest lap for himself at a 38.5.
Doing a little sandbagging to hit the number right now.
Yeah, and now that he's been freed to go, because again, he has to make less laps than he did before on all the previous stints. Now he didn't set a fastest one this time.
But he is only, I think, 3 seconds behind that pair.
Yeah, he is
Maybe
down
less.
to 2 seconds. Yeah, less
2.
than 2 seconds now. Like Bill said, he is chopping away at it. This tree's going to come down sooner or later.
Yeah, those two are in trouble.
Driscoll has continued to just hug the back of Thunhorst, has made no attempts at passing. Thunhorst also just been hanging out behind Young, but also they've been joined by Daniel Johnson, who is a lap down from them. This makes me suspect that maybe this is part of their fuel-saving ploy to get to that checkered flag. Don't pass, just ride the car ahead.
I would suspect so. I'm wondering if they're even thinking about racing Lionel now. They might have accepted that is gone unless there's a yellow. So for them, the best thing they can do is just make it to the end.
Yeah, with apologies to Adam Young and Daniel Johnson, there's no reason that Thunhorst and Driscoll should be behind them for so long. And here comes Kalisto.
Whoa. He actually has to check up a little bit. He went by Wade Hayes and then saw Driscoll there. Didn't want to try and risk the car. Goes back to what you were talking about, Christian. He's not making any crazy moves. He's got the pace right now.
Yeah, exactly. And you could actually see it coming down the front stretch. He had such a ridiculous straight line speed advantage, and I'm pretty sure it was all down to the fact throttle day on.
He gets by Driscoll. Now he's working on Thunhorst. He's to the low side. Third now becomes second place for the number 2. And what we believe could effectively be the lead once Warling has to take his last stop.
Oh.
And a caution! This
Steve
is Ross
Silstad.
Banfield, I think. No?
Yep.
Seilstad, you
I think
said?
it's Toma.
Yeah, Seilstad.
Toma.
Seilstad
Number
and Toma on the
308.
back stretch. We went 172 laps. And it's all down to Toma just clipping that outside wall. Poor Seilstad was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
And now it's all different.
Yep.
This is great news for Warling for sure.
Absolutely.
But who is faster between them, Kalisto or Warling? Because there's nobody between them if the pit stops do not change the order. Watching that replay once again, and oh, embarrassingly, it's 2 Alliance drivers coming together.
Oh no.
Yeah, never want that to happen with your teammate.
And kind of tagging onto that teammate, that kind of just cost Kalisto a certain win right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Warling comes into pit lane. Where is Kalisto? Okay, I was going to say, I kept seeing a lot of Alliance cars going by. I was like, don't tell me he's going to stay out.
Everybody's going to come in here.
Yeah, we've only got 10 with the lucky dog on the lead lap. There's no reason not to pit.
All right, here's where you can't overshoot your stall. Kalisto gets in there clean. Looks like Warling did as well. Gosh, there's so few cars on the lead lap. Look at how empty pit lane is. This is our lead lap pitters. Warling going to get out easily with all the cars between himself and the number 2. Oh, but Matthew Thunhorst gets out ahead of Warling. Or ahead of Kalisto, rather.
Joe, I think you made an interesting point. We really don't know how fast Kalisto is. Now he can race. We haven't seen him do much there until the very end. We know Warling's fast.
Well, we are, I think, good enough to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. As Thunhorst will be coming back out in third, Warling in second. Kinchlow did not pit. I'm not sure if he'll stay where that is, but we'll come back and update you after this quick break for the final run to the checkered flag here at Michigan. Welcome back to Michigan International Speedway. We just had our first caution of the day. And if you look at the upper left of your screen, no, I'm not kidding. First caution at lap 172 as we get ready to come back to green. It is Travis Warling who was saved by the bell. He was not able to make it on fuel. Now he definitely will be able to make it, but he has to outrun both Thunhorst, Callisto, and Driscoll, who have been fast today. This hurt some drivers, helped some drivers. We'll talk about that in a little bit because the Mustang pace car already getting ready to pull into the pit lane. Hopefully we'll be able to go green to the end. We'll see, though. We had a lot of drivers who stayed out to get the lap back, and they are on old tires. So as the Mustang pace car comes down to pit lane, Travis Warling has control. He gets a much better start than what we saw from our pole sitter. Matthew Thunhorst has it clear below, but his teammate is down there, and now that the number 2 has a nose in, our points leader cannot cover off the inside line. Ooh, and we wondered how fast Callisto really is.
Look at
Callisto
that.
looks really fast. Look at the run. Oh, but it gets interrupted. The 90 holding down low. Now he's going to get boxed in. Thunhorst instead gets the speed up on the high line. Oh, and it is aggressive driving behind them with a huge run. That is Jason Fleischle, the 77. He was not a factor for a long time, and suddenly he gets himself in the mix.
This is the same car, same driver, same track as we've been watching for the last 175 laps. My gosh.
Caution brought it a complete change to the complexion of this race. We haven't really got to see the pack racing that we were saying we should expect until now. Driscoll gets bottled up on the high side behind Matthew Thunhorst. He thinks about 3 wide, and in fact behind him it is going to be Knight, who makes it 3 wide, splits the middle. That bumps him into 4th place.
So Driscoll go high then, and I knew, like, with this many laps to go, like, if there's an opportunity for 3, now Driscoll's kind of looking bad.
Yeah, somebody's going to take it if they see an opening. Thunhorst up at the front, but barely. Warling down on the low side. Warling and Thunhorst fighting in the championship up at the top of the points. Daniel Knight with a good run now gets into 2nd place, and Warling slots into 3rd. But make this a battle for the lead now as Daniel Knight rushes low.
It was really well timed by Knight there to kind of push Thunhorst to the lead and then sneak under and make his... But a lot of people haven't really been able to make this bottom line work. Lionel included, actually. I think he might maybe feel like he hesitated a little bit on that restart where he could have pulled up on the backstretch and taken the top line, but Knight's been able to make that work. Maybe no. Thunhorst coming back to him on the outside.
He's got a push from Warling. He wants to get back up to the front. Unfortunately, he's going to get left out to dry as Thunhorst temporarily goes to the low line, drifts back up high to carry the momentum. The 98 back to the front spot. He leads another lap.
Boy, the number 2 of Callisto, like Christian said, he wants to go racing, but he is just boxed in that 3rd position.
Yeah,
All
he's
dressed
pretty much
up
in the
and
worst
nowhere to
spot
go.
right there. You get the aero push from the car ahead of you, but you're also on the bottom line. You have to run tighter, and it's not where you want to be, especially not at this point of the race.
Knight thought about drifting up to the high side, but with Matthew Thunhorst coming hard, I'm not sure that he really wanted to do that. Oh, and here we go. 3 wide for the lead. That is Travis Warling now getting back into it. Restarted at the top spot. He wants back up front. He leads that lap. Thinking about 4 wide for the moment. Oh, and Callisto making contact. Tries to save the car, but he swings back up. That takes Kinchlow out with him, and we got a big one. Or do we? No. Looks like Toma maybe got involved in it. This all started with contact between
Driscoll and Callisto.
Yeah, Callisto.
And honestly, Driscoll was trying to put his car somewhere where it probably wasn't much room.
That was Kinchlow who got clipped in the 44 and went spinning, and then poor Kyle Murphy, who was a lap down and just was riding around with the leaders, just looking for a decent finish, found himself T-boning our former champion. Little Train, unfortunately, going to have to come in and take that spare car. He could still be in this.
Yeah, to be honest, that's one of those deals where what's gone on is you had a 3 wide in front on the front lane, and then you had both Kalisto and Driscoll, both of them trying to go into that gap in the middle. Like, you can see it here, like, both of them want this middle lane, and both of them feel like they have a claim to it, and they kind of do, because neither of them, like, they're only 1 wide, so that really is just a racing deal at that point.
Now, we didn't have time to point out that during that last yellow, a lot of cars stayed out and took the wave around. We're on the lead lap. One of those, Taft Baldwin, remember him? He's fast. He'll be able to come in, get fresh tires. He's going to be back about, what, 12th? But with certainly enough time. What, do we have about 15 laps of racing to go? Plenty of time.
I wouldn't count him out. Especially, I mean, there's no point in saving the tires now. He's got to go all out as we see everybody come in. Everybody on the lead lap, anyways.
Oh, gee, poor, you got a Kalisto. It was just a few minutes ago he was saying, this race is mine, and now he's trying to salvage. Still in pretty good shape, though.
Yeah, at least he's got his free car. He's just come down and taken his reset right there. I totally understand why both of them did that, though. Both of them went for that, because I was pretty convinced the middle line was going to get a huge run off of 2. And that could have been what won either of them the race.
All right, so our order gets shuffled around by that. Warling comes out in first, Driscoll second, McGreevy third. Kinch must have taken his spare car, somehow winds up in 4th.
Mercy.
Wow. Very, very fast stop for him. Thunhorst, unfortunately, has fallen down to P5. Is that a 2-tire call for Kinch?
9.5 second stop. So yeah, and I believe
the top
Walling
4,
and
yeah.
Driscoll. Yep, Walling and Driscoll, and maybe McGreevy as well. I think so. It's 10 second stop, a little slower than the others, but yeah, definitely top 4 on no more than 2 tires.
All right, we got some dice rollers. We're going to see how they fare on 2 fresh tires with just a handful of laps, maybe 8 laps on those worn tires running at pace.
Give a shout out to Mom and Dad McGreevy. I know they watch the broadcast. Not
Didn't
so
you
sure
find
about
out
your
that
son's,
Brian was a lot older than you thought, though?
I don't. You can be pretty old, still have parents. I'm not. Just, I'm not so sure about your son's strategy there to take just 2 tires, but we'll see how it plays out.
Still got a couple more laps here behind the pace car, letting the lapped cars come in for the stop. A few more are staying out to get their laps back. Schmeier, Bennett, Ludwig, Seilstad, Oki, Kanata, Hayes, and Powers, it looked like all are going to try and get back onto the lead lap here.
Those in 10th, Taft Baldwin in 14th. A couple drivers to watch.
I believe we have an in-race interview ready to talk to us. Adam Young, who's back on the lead lap, currently running in P15. Those new paint schemes certainly not helping you get too many cautions, at least until the very end, Adam.
Yeah, we're getting them when we need them, though. After my little half spin there on the backstretch, getting back on the lead lap and everything, we're good on the long run, so we'll see how we do here on the medium run. I have a feeling, though, we're not done with cautions, though.
Was there enough time in that green flag pit stop after your catch to get some new underwear thrown through the window?
No, I'm still sitting here. It's kind of bad in here right now.
Well, you only have to last it for a few more laps. With you being on the lead lap, what's your expectation from here on out?
I think we got a bunch of guys in front of us that we think took 2 tires. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to mix out. I definitely have a top 5 car. I mean, you could see how we were keeping pace with Thunderhorse a little while ago. Daniel's up there. Taft, if it hadn't been for his mistake earlier, he'd be up there too, but he's going to be charging through. So I expect good things here if we can stay out of trouble. That's going to be the big thing here over the last 15 laps.
All right, we'll let you go. They're getting double file. Best of luck.
Thank you, sir. Good luck. Good job, guys.
Adam Young running 15th right now for riding shotgun. And it will be Travis Warling up at the top of the field who restarts and leads the way. Are we going to be able to go from here to green now is the question.
No.
And this is such confidence.
No, this one.
Well, actually, but I do have another question on that, and I need to check on the rules. Do we have a green-white checkers in this series now that they've been introduced?
I believe we do. I think they can have up to 3.
Ah. So, that could change the face of this as well. Could up the aggressiveness toward the end, knowing that they'll get more chances. We've got different motivations going on. Warling, remember, fighting to get higher up in the championship points now that many of his rivals are not here. Thunderhorse wants to defend his points lead, who is a little bit farther down in row 3. And of course, you've got Kalisto, who wants to come back and get his first win of the season. He is well down in the points and could get his championship hopes back on the rails. But the pace car is in. Warling waiting. Now he takes off. Green flag is out as Driscoll follows behind. Down below him, Brian McGreevy has his nose and he can't duck down low quite yet. Thunhorst maybe going to give him a little bit of a bump. No, he backs out of it. Lynn Kinchlow, who survived that last wreck to take his spare car, washes up high and falls back. But the battle for second going to be joined because here comes Daniel Knight. Oh, and a big bobble by the 90. That was Warling, losing speed, coming off the corner. He tries to cover off the low side all the way down to the bottom. This does not look good, but Daniel Knight makes good on it. What a start for the number 94. He is up to the lead. Incredible stuff.
His timing of that run was really good, but he's still got a lot of work to do here. Everybody's going to have runs back on him, the same that he them. It's not over. He's got a lot of defending to do here.
Baldwin with a head of steam, and the inside line is up to 8th now. 3rd back on the inside line. Watch out for the number 5. Now he moves to the top.
Travis Warling gets the shot off the corner. That bumps him back up to the front. Driscoll follows him through into second place. Daniel Knight had dreams for a moment. They've been dashed. Can he claw his way back forward to challenge for the lead? Look at it, 3 wide behind them for 5th place. That's Taft Baldwin coming through.
He is coming. He's coming quick, but he's got a blocker in front of him. Nowhere to go.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, it is getting a little bit crazy. Look at how many are 3 wide there in the pack. This does not have good writing on it. I'm not sure that we'll make it to the checkered flag all the way under green flag conditions. If they do, this is some magnificent racing. We ride on board with Steele stuck in the middle of the pack.
This is all about being in the right lane at the right time here. So you've got to run, especially when, say, you've got these 3 wides here that's kind of stalling out the group that's in those 3 wides.
Kalisto starts to get back in it. He's now in the 3rd row back there on the bottom line. But up at the front, it is Knight managing to get his way back up to the front. Tries to cover off the number 90. Covers the middle of the track, but the 90 sees a hole to the inside. He gets low with that momentum intact. Up on the high side, the number 51 of Driscoll thinking about 3 wide for the lead. That 3rd lane not quite working how he wants, and he gets back in line.
Baldwin now leading on the inside line. He started this run in 12th, going for the lead.
What a comeback from Taft Baldwin after a critical error in the pit stops. He is now in the lead. The number 5 up front after missing out. Behind him, the number 90 of Travis Warling. Going to see if he can try to take this one back. He chops in front of Thunhorse, taking the low line. They head into 3 one more time. We're going to be 10 laps to go this time by.
This is some remarkable driving going on from these guys. I apologize for saying we're going to have a yellow flag. We may have one, but man, oh man, this is impressive. Look at on the inside.
Cream of the crop, rise to the top. And Driscoll working a shallow line doesn't work out for him. It is Taft Baldwin who just about holds onto it, but Travis Worley in the middle lane gets ahead a little bit. Don't forget, here comes Thunhorst as well. And as Ray Partridge is back into this.
I was just about to mention him. He made a huge run on the bottom line.
They now come across the line once more. Baldwin with a little bit of a run up the high side, whirling down low in the 90. Those two breaking away slightly. Thunhorst and Knight behind them. They're going to have to work together. Got a big checkup behind, and that is the 474 trying to catch it.
Doesn't. Comes around.
And there's the caution. Oh, and he drifts up just ahead of Jumbo Pfeiffer, who catches the wall from that. And then Ernie Ludwig, unfortunately, after his bad day gets worse, gets into the back of 474.
It started with contact with Kalisto. Kalisto was able to save his car. And Johnson almost saved it.
Johnson had about 5 tries for it. Oh my goodness. That almost took out 4 cars. He had just a car's length between the 84 of Medeiros and the 88 of Partridge. Can we look above at the initial slide down to the inside? You could not fit a piece of paper between these 3 cars. Look at wow. We're going to try one more time to look at it from above. You got a really good look at it from in front there.
Kind of looked like the car that was right on the top line just got tight, and then it had that little flick down the track and kind of tagged Kalisto, and then he was gathering up the entire straightaway.
Okay, Christian, they're coming in. 4 tires or 2?
2.
8 laps. 2.
Yeah, that 2 worked out pretty well, it looked like. I'm with Christian on this one. Everybody
Especially
got
if you took 4
valuable
on the last
information.
one.
So all of our lead lap cars in. Actually, where is Worley?
Worley took 2.
Oh, there he is. We had a number of drivers stay out who were on the lead lap.
Yeah, they were so far back. Let's stay out, get up front. Make it a little harder on these guys to get through.
All right, let's run through some names for you. Partridge, Gelder, Medeiros, our pole sitter, Fleischle, Young, Mertz is in there, Hutchison, and Gall. All did not pit.
I like that strategy better if there were not green-white checkers.
Yeah, really.
You're only about 2 laps away from this, 1 lap away from the race ending, so.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. The thing is that the first lap, the tires do not matter because you're not... the only place, really, where you... on a green-white checker, the only place you're really going to notice the tires is when you get to turn 3 on lap 2. And that's kind of why I was saying 2 tires, because I think the 2 tires sort of sorts you for this, where it's going to be maybe 3, possibly even 4 laps under green, if it goes to the end. And after that, you don't pit. Like, there's no way. I don't see how, with how long it takes these things to get up to speed now with this package, there is no way you are going to get from, say, if you pit and you go all the way back to 20th, there is no way you are getting up to the lead. So you have, like, this. I feel like the scenario everybody's got now is what they got to the end. they've made their decision, and I don't foresee anybody. Maybe the guys nearer the back will just pit because there's nothing to lose by doing so. But especially the guys inside the top 10, I don't expect to see them pit again, no matter how many green-white checkers we have.
We should have 4 laps to go only on this restart if we get the one to go this time by. So that's not a whole lot of laps itself. Warling has to overtake 8 cars to get back up to the lead. He's been fast, so has Taft Baldwin, who actually lost out on those pit stops. He's all the way down in 13th now.
Might not be a matter of speed, but more a matter of real estate. Is there just enough room to get through 8 cars?
Whoa. And you were predicting those cautions before the end. The likelihood it's going to get all the more higher, I think, Bill, because like you said, real estate, there's going to be some moves made that I think are going to be suspect because it's for all the marbles at this point.
Yeah, I think we've got another yellow before we get to the end, to be totally honest.
Come up to the line yet again. Ray Partridge, your leader now. Ray started this thing in 12th position. Gelder himself started 32nd. He's in second place behind him. Lights are indeed off, and they're going to go double file. What about the pole sitter?
Gotta figure he's got a chance, right? I was just looking at it.
What a story that would be. You'd look at the stats and see, he qualified at the top and he won the race. Well, it was a little bit more exciting than just that.
Now, I think the key here is getting off that bottom line as soon as you can. So I do actually think that Medeiros is in a good spot, but he has to get off the bottom line. Especially with the older tires that those guys are going to have. Their only play is to run the top, and they need to get to the top as soon as they can. Because if they don't, the guys on the fresh tires are going to get there because they can move around better, and they're going to pin them down to the bottom, and then they're just going to get trained.
4 laps to the checkers, unless we get a green-white checker here. Are we going to be able to stay green? Are the drivers going to be able to take this all the way? This is only our 3rd caution of the day. And as they come through 3 and 4, it's a very, very mixed up strategy call here at the top. Everyone with huge question marks about how this all is going to play out. Pace car now out of turn 4. Mustang releases the field and comes into pit lane. Ray Partridge stacks them up. He waits. Now he gets on the throttle and he is away. It is a huge jump that he pulled over Matt Gelder. Medeiros can't get to the top side quite yet. Unfortunately, he's got the 69 up there at the top. And then there's Jason Fleischle as well. Don't count out the 77 for Alliance. He's working the high line, like you said. Now the line is clear for Medeiros. And he's got a decent run on the 88. I'm not sure that it's enough of a run. Weaving down the backstretch, Ray Partridge tries to hold a defensive line. Oh, and it's already getting exciting. The 31 gets hit. He is up to the high side. He tries to stay out of the way. I don't think we have a caution. I think we're good.
Oh, no yellow yet. Amazing.
Taking a big hit with Steve Driscoll.
And the 84 did get a run. They only have to get to lap 200. The final lap, there is no cautions thrown. Medeiros on the high side on the... Oh, wow. Look at the 98 of Thunhorst. He is coming. Splits the middle, and we get a caution. Was that Beltrami?
No, Beltrami.
It is.
Got together with Taft Baldwin.
Let's take a look at the replay. By the way, I don't know if you've noticed, it's been getting a little bit dark at times.
Yeah.
Clouds have really come over, so it's making it grippier on top of it.
That was Beltrami. That's a 2-to-go incident there.
Watching from onboard Taft here.
And it comes across the nose of Taft.
Taft was coming up slightly, but not a whole lot. I think it was that the 14 was looking ahead at Wayne Hutchison, thinking that he's got to go below him.
Yeah, it kind of looked like he was sort of trying to position himself to the middle to maybe sort of point a 3 wide gap going into 3, but unfortunately for Bob, I kind of feel like that's on him.
And here's Rob Gall with the other incident that we thought would start a caution. Wow, he's a pinball. They say in gaming you don't want to get tilted, but unfortunately for the 31, I think that's certainly not going to help him.
This is Driscoll that gets Driscoll gets a big piece of this one as he goes by.
Okay,
Now-
so our first of our green-white checkers, Christian.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say something about restarts. What Ray did in terms of stacking them up and getting them all bunched, that was really what he needs to do again. But he needs to make a slight difference to it. He needs to make sure that when he goes, everybody comes with him. Because that's, like, if he can keep a car in his bumper, he reduces that chance when you get to the backstretch of guys behind him having a big run on him. And the more he can kind of stack everybody up, the more he can prevent those guys that have got the newer tires from being able to move around and get out of their lanes. Because when you go and everybody stretches out, the gaps open up in the lines, and the guys with the fresh tires can move around a lot more easily than they would be able to. Whereas if everybody's stacked up and you're keeping those guys trapped on the bottom and they've got cars boxing all around them, then you keep those guys there and they can't do anything. Now, I don't think tires matters now. And that's why I think that kind of move and that kind of restart is going to be critical to if he can win this race. And I think he can. I really think that Ray Partridge can win this race if he just gets his restart right and makes sure that everybody stays bunched as a pack and defends the bottom.
All right, well, we'll see if the 88 takes your advice on this one. We're coming around for what would have been the final lap, but again, we will get our first of 3 green-white checkers here today.
Christian, that was some good stuff, baby. I enjoyed listening to that. So Partridge needs to get a good restart, but not too good of a restart.
Yeah, a good restart would be conventionally a bad one, in the sense of he won't get any jump at all. Like, the ideal thing is to get away with both lines at the exact same speed.
And are we already doubling up here? Nope, we are not. The lights are still on the pace car. So we still got at least 2 more to go. What about our drivers who were up towards the front before? How did they make inroads on this? Thunhorst is up to 5th. Warling managed to get up to P6, Knight to 8th. Baldwin with his contact, unfortunately, down in 10th. Poor Callisto, he is in 16th. He is mired back there. In fact, I think Callisto is suffering from the damage that he got from the incident where he got spun around down to the infield.
I tell you, the racing gods will turn on you in a heartbeat, won't they? Poor Lionel Callisto. That thing's going, and then, man, it just all started to gang up on him.
Oval racing is a fickle beast, and you really cannot predict how things are going to go. You kind of just have to roll with the punches. Certainly looked like it was going his way. Hopefully we get the lights out this time by. We'll find out pretty soon.
How about Matt Gelder, huh? Sitting there inside a row 2? Not a boy.
Yeah, of our top 5, 2 of them were 30th or above on the grid. Of course, a nice little tribute on his unorthodox car in memory of Chris. It was like that they do a lot of special stuff here with the paint jobs in this series. Sometimes very, very meaningful to the drivers and personal to them, obviously. Lights are out. Okay, so we only have to do 1 lap under green. Question is, can we get around to that? We had trouble with that last time, Christian, in another series that we covered. Let's see if these drivers have a little bit more skill and respect.
Yeah, and I mean that's the critical thing is that if you get to the white flag, that's it. That last lap is like you're coming around no matter what, and that's when there's the potential to see really crazy moves. There's no yellows, so you just kind of gotta figure something out if you're in a bad position.
Certainly could go any which way. I'd say that, honestly, if we do have those crazy moves, anybody within probably the top 15 has a shot at winning this thing. It all depends on who gets taken out if we have a problem. They come into turn 3. Partridge gets to do another restart. Medeiros this time, though, will be on the outside on the front row. And do they know how to do these restarts like Christian has been instructing? How much experience do they have here on the ovals? Partridge, I know from previous times, is pretty good here on the circle tracks. He waits a little bit here as the pace car is in. Now he gets going. Oh, but he gets a jump. The 88 already stretching ahead of Medeiros. He could slot down to the low side if he wants, but he does not. He stays high. We really get a lot of cars fanning out back when we get to 5th, almost going 4 wide, maybe 5 wide, and I think they maybe get it sorted out.
Thunhurst makes the move, though. Yeah.
Yep. Thunhurst is absolutely in the best place now to make anything happen here.
Can they get to the white flag? Just 2 more corners to go. Medeiros going low. Thunhorst going high. Partridge is split. He can do nothing to stop it. But then there's Daniel Knight making it 4 wide down to the bottom. A few more yards they have to go. They have the white flag now, and we are going all the way to the end. Daniel Knight with a power move. It's the 88 in the middle. On the high side, we get cars turning it. It's a big wreck. That's Ryan Steele involved in that. We'll get back to that in a minute. That certainly takes away a lot of the competition, but Daniel Knight with a monster run off the backstretch. Thunhorst, an even better run behind him. He's going to look down to low side, but he gets blocked. Contact between them. The 94 has still got the lead, but it's not over yet. Can the 98 manage to get it around the final corner? The 88 trying to run it high. He falls back. Thunhorst looking for the win. Our points
be really
leader.
close.
It's going to be so close. They come to the line. Who's it going to be? Thunhorst! 6/1000ths of a second.
The
That
move
was an
that,
amazing move by Knight.
the move the Knight made was amazing.
That was gutsy. 4 wide for the lead. I just want to watch this and not say anything. Brave stuff, almost below the yellow line. So let's watch Gelder here. Is this the incident? Oh yeah, Gelder saw that, thought I could make this 4 wide as well. And that went all sorts of wrong.
Then Knight throws the block.
You had to have known that was coming, Christian. He had to have known that was coming.
Yeah. I'm actually really surprised that Thunhorst was able to get that run that he did off of 4. Like, when they were kind of coming off the corner, I was like, get there. And then, like, he just started pulling up so much. That was really, like, expertly timed. That was great racing by both of us.
Oof, probably half a foot between them at the line. That's going to take us to a quick break while Thunhorst burns it down and celebrates in style here at Michigan. He extends his points lead. We'll bring you back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around. Welcome back to Michigan International Speedway. That was one of the most exciting finishes we've seen in the majors in a long time, with a lot of drivers viable as the winner all the way down to the finish. But Matthew Thunhorst, by 6/1000ths of a second, took it over Daniel Knight. I think we all were just wowed by Daniel's move with 1 to go, managing to go from way in the back 4 wide to take the lead away. It just wasn't meant to be today. He still gets second place. Ray Partridge, we were all kind of pulling for him as well. It would have been what a fairy tale story to get back up to the lead lap and take the win, but at least gets a podium. Taft Baldwin, who was very, very strong in the race, did manage a 4th place and a good points day. Steve Driscoll, 5th behind him from 21st on the grid. Jonathan Medeiros, our pole sitter, did get redeemed in the end. He at least gets the 6th place. His race pace was not looking good all day, despite his qualifying pace being impressive. But 6 is not bad. Josh Cully with a 7th place. He was in the mid-pack much of the race. Ryan Toma returns in his first race back in a long time with an 8th position. Lynn Kinchlow takes 9th himself, and Bill Lionel Callisto, after all that, he gets a top 10.
Up and down. Boy, a story for every driver as I go 11th through 20th. Let's get through it. Bob Beltrami and Brian McGreevy go 11th and 12th. In the Baker's dozen position is a good finish for Adam Young. Daniel Johnson was racing up front for a while. He gets 14th. Jason Fleischle. Travis Warling, my God, 16th place doesn't seem fair. He's ahead of Wayne Hutchison, with Jeff Schmeier in 18th position. All these cars on the lead lap: Ryan Steele, Wade Hayes, and then I'll go one more. I'll go down to 20. Oh, there's 2 more. I'll take 21st and 22nd. That's Matt Gelder and Joshua Mertz, and that rounds out all the cars on the lead lap. Christian?
Yeah, the first car off the lead lap we got is Brian Bennett. He kind of didn't really have a great afternoon, really. He came home 23rd, probably a bit disappointed with that. And then we had Steve Selstad in 24th, Rob Powers 25th with Kyle Murphy alongside him in 26th. And we had Andrew Oakey, who qualified really well, started in 5th but fell back pretty quickly and then kind of struggled most of the afternoon. He was 27th with Ross Banfield in 28th. We had Jimbo Pfeiffer. He kind of really didn't feature that much this afternoon either. He came home 29th, and then Ernie Ludwig alongside him with 30th had a little bit of an issue in one of those wrecks at the end. Then in 31st, we had Joshua Kanata with Rob Gold 32nd, Marcus Tracy 33rd, and William Fletcher 34th.
Fortunately, it looks like Fletcher retired. That we still didn't quite find out what the issue was with him very early in the race. We've got our winner ready to talk to us. Matthew Thunhorst joins us in the booth. Matt, we talked about it being a long shot, but not impossible with you going from the back of the field to take the win and extend your points lead. That was an incredible run. How long did you spend on that race set to get yourself to run through the field?
Well, Joe, you say it was a long shot. I had no doubt I could get up there, but I probably had 20 to 30 hours. Jason throwing a lot of time. Trevor and Patrick kind of were my guinea pigs and helped us really get the set and figure out what we had in international. And a lot of guys did a lot of work. So for one, to bring this strong of a setup to this race and be able to do what I did with coming through on the back and be able to drive up top 5 there, that's awesome. This race was just 170 laps, I think, under green was crazy. And to win how I did there, I mean, just, oh my God, that was nuts!
Clearly excited as much as we were. Before we get to the finish, though, let's talk about, you said the 170 laps under green. It was very much becoming a fuel race, and we were watching very closely and had question marks on if you could get to the end. Did you know if you could get to the end if it had stayed green?
It was fairly close. I was saving. I think Driscoll, when he refused to pass me, he figured out what I was doing when we came in together. And at that point, I knew Warland was going to get away when I got stuck in traffic, right around that battle for 11th. And so at that point, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to save fuel because I was a fool and came in early thinking that we'd have a caution, and one never came. And so I was like, I have to beat Warling. I've got to do this for the championship. I want to have a legitimate shot. I have to beat him tonight. And so that's the only way I had it. And so me and Driscoll were both saving, and then that caution came out, and it was right at the point that Lionel passed us, and he was going to go for the win and get it. So sucks for Lionel because I guess he had a rough night after that. But yeah, I mean, we were playing the fuel mileage game. I didn't think Warling could do it. He was just trying to get it on speed, so I was trying to play the off card.
Now, that last lap coming to the line, obviously Daniel got a really good shot. Were you aware that you were 4 wide? Did you have a human spotter telling you what in the world was going on?
I had no idea. I looked over out because I got triple, so I looked out towards the window net. I'm like, I saw him kind of be down there on the apron, and I looked again and I saw he wasn't, but I didn't realize he was there. And I'm like, what the world? And once we got past Ray and it was just me and Daniel, and I was able to sneak behind him, I'm like, okay, I've got a shot. Use the draft. And I was like, I'm gonna have the run. I'm gonna have the draft. And I'm looking at the results, and I can't believe it was 0.06 of a second. I mean, I didn't know I was going to get it. And we got closer, and we're just coming out of 4, and I'm like, come on, come on. And the car it barely nudged it out. And I'm so glad because Jason made me a paint scheme for this car. And oh, God, it looks sexy doing that. And he made me look good tonight.
Well, congratulations on the victory. Definitely go and celebrate. This will help you over William Quinn with him not showing up today. I think we're just as hyped as you are, sir.
Thanks, Joe.
Matthew Thunhorst, our winner. And then Bill has caught up with Daniel Knight, the driver that made all of our jaw drops coming to the line for the white.
Daniel, we'll get to the end of the race in a minute. Let's start early on. You raced up front early, then you fell back a little farther back from that long green flag run that we had.
Yeah, I definitely shot myself in the foot there. Slid through my box in the first stop, which is the one thing that I said to myself not to do a million times. And then, of course, I did it.
Well, you hung in there, and eventually the yellow comes out, and that kind of gets everybody a shot at it. Let's jump right to the very end, and let's go right to the move down low. That was impressive. You had to hold your breath when you were making that move.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that I was in the front of the guys that had all 4 tires, and I dove it down in there, and I'm not sure who that was in front of me, maybe Ray. But I just kind of,
yeah, I think it was
I kind of went for it and hoped that he would give me room. I let up just a hair, and then as soon as I saw him open up some daylight, I just punched it through. I figured worst case scenario, I was going to have to go below the apron and get the spot back, but I'm really glad it worked out.
So you got the pass made, then you're out in front, then you defend the inside line, and you kind of stall Thunhorse's move. Did you think you had him out of 4?
I wasn't sure. I had one of our teammates, Chris Pence. He was spotting for me and telling me what was going on, and I knew he was going to try the move to the low side, and I was going to at least slow that down. I wasn't going to straight up block him or get in his way, but looking at the replay, I probably could have come up and taken the air off his nose, but I really didn't want to come up and do it and turn him. I'd rather finish second and win by wrecking. So, and then once he was alongside me, I knew it was just a drag race.
Well, man, you put on a great show. Congratulations. Gridded in 7th, took the 2nd place. Nice job. You led for a little bit at the end. Good luck. See you down the road.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Daniel Knight, 2nd place finisher today. And we talked about the catch of the day. That was the move of the day that he had. Joe?
Yes, up next, we've got Ray Partridge. 3rd place, a bit of a Cinderella story for Ray. And Christian's going to talk to him about that finish as well.
Ray, we saw you had control on the restarts at the end there, and we were actually talking about it, kind of how you could check people and have a run and maybe get it done. Did you think on those restarts that you could have won that race?
Man, I was sure trying, Christian. I tell you.
I mean, we have to admit we kind of wanted to see you win. We saw you up there, and I thought like a green white checkered. It was going to be real close. Yeah, it just kind of looked like on one of the restarts you got slightly too far out front, and then they were able to get a big run on you down the backstretch.
Yeah, I knew try to keep him close was probably the better option, but I just I thought I'd get going and see what happens, and hopefully Thunhurst and the other guy that had fresh tires would get held up a little bit, but they just had too much open track that last restart.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of saw John Medeiros. He tried to go all the way down to the bottom, and he just wasn't able to keep it pinned coming out of 4, and that kind of let Daniel get under him and really make that power move. All that said, though, he came home 3rd. Got to be pretty happy with that, right?
Oh yeah, I'm super happy with that. I mean, I was a lap down. I took the wave around with I think 20 to go or whatever, and So I was down on tires compared to everybody else for sure. And third place is awesome.
Well, I mean, we can tell you're pretty happy with that result. Is there anybody you'd like to thank, kind of helping you out with paint schemes and so on for this week?
Oh, definitely Mark for the paint schemes, Dog Bear Racing, of course, all the guys there are just awesome group of guys. Obviously want to thank, I got Unforgettable on the car this week. Also, it's Nick, one of his side jobs or things that he does. And then, of course, we want to shout out to Sarge's Place, of course. They've been on our cars for numerous amount of years, and just want to give a shout out to those guys.
All right, man. Well, we had a good time kind of calling that at the end, and like I say, we really wanted to see you pull it off, but congrats again on your third place, and good luck for the next one.
Appreciate it, guys.
That was our third place finisher, Ray Partridge. And up next, we have one more driver to talk to. Lynn Kinchlow managed to finish in 9th today, but it was certainly a little bit all over the place, especially at the end there, Kinch. We know that a lot of drivers tend to debate about if we should keep the spare car in this series, and especially on the oval side where sometimes drivers tend to come back into the race and full field causes problems. But I get the feeling that today you might be a little bit thankful for that.
Believe it or not, Mr. Peak, I did not use my spare car on that little incident. Yeah, that little drifting thing only gave me about 15 seconds worth of damage, so I figured it probably would be okay since it was on the left rear and not in the air, so I think it was doing all right. Yeah, go ahead.
That was that makes it all the more impressive. Still, you got slotted down a little bit towards the end. What's going through your head when you find yourself pretty much mired in the mid pack when you had a front running car for much of the day?
The truth be told, we were in trouble. I run strategy from the car for Unorthodox Motorsports when we get into the splits together. And the whole strategy behind our team was to run a different gear that would allow us to run for a very long time to where we could actually run down cars that were the short run cars. The problem with that strategy is, as we found out this evening, we have to run 170 some odd laps green, only to find out, we're just going to go into a full mayhem mode, and that different gearing choice hurt us on the restarts. So, yeah, it did get us mired back, and then we just had to gamble on the chaos and the anarchy in turn 1 and 2 to claw back some of those positions that were lost.
All right. Well, one more before we let you go. Next round is going to be in the Lotus 49 at Milwaukee. How do you feel coming into that the first time this car's shown up in the majors?
It should be interesting. It's, from what I hear in the setup shop, it's going to be kind of like running the Silver Crown car, but much longer. It'll be interesting to try to finagle a road car into turning left all the time. Should be good. Should be exciting. Hopefully, I see a lot of retro paint schemes. Should be interesting.
Yeah, we look forward to it as well. Again, congratulations on a 9th place today from 24th on the grid, and we'll see you in a few weeks' time.
We'll see you there.
Lynn Kinchlow, 9th place today, and that wraps up our interviews for the Michigan 400. So we've got to close out. A big thank you to the majors for bringing us back for another season of coverage once again, as well as a thank you to iRacing for putting all 3 of the majors regions on IESN. Make sure and subscribe so that you don't miss a moment. All you got to do is click the big red button that says subscribe. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen. And additional thanks go to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of her great work. Thanks to the team today, Amjad, Bill, and Christian. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, Dougie is well in there. Can't forget about Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Our Twitter is at GSR Channel, Facebook, Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram is at GSRC_Graham. As we mentioned, in a couple weeks' time, we'll come back with open wheel cars, open wheel cars. The Milwaukee Mile will host the Lotus 49s on Sunday, September 15th at 7:45 p.m. Eastern. But we have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.